Hello, welcome, bienvenuti a Roma. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. We will have this working session. There's already coffee and tea at the outside of the room. And after we hear from our distinguished panelists, there will be an opportunity to take the floor. So please, if you wish to take the floor, in about 10 minutes, there's going to be some forms outside the room. So you can give that to one of our room assistants and they will bring it here. And I think we can begin now. Thank you.
Mauricio, is this working? All right. Good morning, esteemed parliamentarians, religious leaders and scholars. So very warm welcome to the second parliamentarian conference on interfaith dialogue, strengthening trust and embracing hope for our common future. And welcome specifically to this thematic working session on promoting peaceful coexistence. My name is Deepika Singh, and I serve as the Deputy Secretary General at Religions of Peace, one of the world's largest and most representative multi-religious movement that consists of interreligious councils and networks of women of faith and youth working on the global, regional, national, and local levels in over nearly 90 countries. I have the privilege and honor to be moderating this session. We gather here today at a very critical time when our world is facing multiple intersecting crises, violent conflict, ever-growing danger of nuclear annihilation, catastrophic consequences of climate change, deepening inequalities, erosion of universal human rights and freedom, rising hostility, polarization, extreme social disconnect, and the list goes on. In the face of these very devastating polycrises, the need to build trust and inspire hope has never been more urgent. However, despite the pervasive sense of doom and gloom, not all is lost. Religious leaders and parliamentarians each hold unique and powerful position in society. Through our work at Religions of Peace, we have seen how religious and faith communities are woven into the very fabric of society and are uniquely positioned to respond to our interconnected challenges and promote inclusive, just, and peaceful societies. Their influence is real, their reach is vast, and their role indispensable. Parliamentarians, too, play a crucial role. They represent the people and are responsible for advancing their interests and needs. And when parliamentarians and religious leaders work in partnership across faiths and no faith, across sectors and political divides, they can help weave stronger social ties grounded in shared values of compassion, dignity, and justice to advance the common good. Today, we're most fortunate after that we have expert panelists here with us who will enlighten us with their insights and expertise gained through their lived experience in working to foster peace. A peace that is not merely the absence of war or conflict, but peace that advances shared human flourishing in harmony with the earth. So to maximize our interaction and to benefit from the rich experience and expertise of our panelists, each will have 4 to 5 minutes to deliver their brief remarks. This will be followed by 3 minutes of reflection and key takeaways from the respondents. Then we will open the floor for questions from the audience. So our first speaker is Ms. Monica Bartos, who is a member of the Hungarian National Assembly. Honorable Bartos, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I wish you very good morning, all of you. Some words about me. I've been member of the Hungarian National Assembly since 2010, and I'm member of the Hungarian Parliamentary Prayer Group. And after the Bahrain Assembly, when we raised the topic of intolerance and violence, I became member of the doctoral school in military sciences to understand the deeper connection between things, why the world is so violent and not peaceful. And unfortunately, from the Bahrain Assembly, the situation has deteriorated despite our joint statement in the Marrakesh Declaration. According to the Religious Freedom in the World Report, 4.9 billion people live in countries where they face serious violence of religious freedom. In 28 countries, they fall victim to persecution, and in 33, they are subjected to discrimination. And we have to ask the question, why are we not successful? My personal opinion is that our society, we should first and foremost become doctors, not politicians, but doctors. We need to heal the wounds. People are full of wounds at individual level, in their communities, and also between nations. If these are not addressed, they will never be healing, and we can never live peacefully together. First of all, the root causes of peacelessness must be identified. Often, conflicts that are perceived to be rooted in religion are not truly caused by religious differences. Such conflicts are often caused by insecurity, frustration, or hopelessness. We must forget that modernism and globalization have left many people by the roadside, who fall even further behind and get more marginalized. This process is further reinforced by global competition. At the same time, anger caused by frustration and powerlessness can make many different forms and have many targets and victims. We must ask ourselves what the situation in our own country is. In answering the question, it is important to have a correct assessment of the situation and also to be honest. One way of easing social tensions, even if they are religiously based, is to complete developments that benefit people of different religions, helping many. Examples include the construction of doctors' surgeries, schools, hospitals. For example, the Hungary Health Program, though the Hungary Health Program, Hungary also often supports such developments. We can inflict wounds on each other, not only in our personal lives, but also at national levels. Without reconciliation, these wounds cannot be healed. It is important to forgive and apologize. And it's not just a dream. Let me give you two examples. Hungary, my country, and Serbia are neighbors. We have inflicted heavy wounds on each other in the course of history, especially during the Second World War. In 2013, Hungarian head of state apologized in the Serbian parliament for the crimes committed by Hungarians against innocent Serbs. At the same time, the Serbian parliament condemned the massacre of 20,000 Hungarians by Serbs. The two heads of state named the crime and apologized for them. Thus, the two nations have stepped out of the vicious circle of stigmatization, blame, anger, revenge. We started building trust once again, which would have been impossible without reconciliation. Another event that I was also part of in Europe, and especially in Central Europe, we suffered a lot due to communism, which produced many victims, as well as psychological trauma. Nations have also inflicted wounds on each other. The Central European Prayer Breakfast was organized in May this year to allow us to pray together, but also for MPs to seek mutual forgiveness on behalf of their countries. 200 of us from 25 countries attended, and I can tell you that by the end we looked at each other in a completely different light. A new future has begun for us. Personal choices and leading by example have the power to shape history and lives. And this is not only achievable by historical heroes, but also by us. I think the biggest mistake to underestimate this power. Somebody once said, "Do not complain about the darkness. Be the light." That is what I encourage us to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Bartos, for that. And you're so right. We simply must need to know the root causes of conflict. And many a times it has nothing to do with religion, but then religion is being misused or leveraged in some ways or another. The other factor that you talked about, the importance of forgiveness and reconciliation, and we'll be hearing a little bit more about this later on. And thank you so much for providing us and giving insight into very concrete examples on the ground in Hungary of what worked. I mean, these are the things that we really want to hear and learn from. So thank you for that. Now I have the privilege to call upon Mr. Abdullah Al-Mania, who is the Executive Director of the King Hamad Global Center for Coexistence and Tolerance. Mr. Al-Mania, you lead an organization that happens to have one of its objectives being promoting global peace and coexistence. Please do share with us how this objective is being achieved and how your effort, such as the post-graduation diploma on coexistence and initiatives addressing hate and ending racism, have contributed to promoting peaceful coexistence. And what advice would you offer to parliamentarians seeking to institutionalize a culture of tolerance through national legislation or education? Mr. Al-Mania, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. This conference is probably one of the most important conferences that will come across the globe in the next year. As Honorable Bartos said, since Bahrain and the Bahrain Declaration, things have started to take a step back. What we are seeing right now is that the King Hamad Global Center, which was established in 2018 to further the vision of His Majesty in terms of coexistence globally, there has been a receding in coexistence in the world. This conference brings together politicians and religious leaders under one roof, under the umbrella and term interfaith dialogue. You asked what the advice was. Well, it's not an advice, it's what needs to happen. And that is, we need to move away from interfaith dialogue and enter into the realm of interfaith action. Today, we have a lot of examples from Bahrain and around the world. However, a simple example that happened in the Kingdom of Bahrain, a conference, much smaller than this one, that brought together the Vicariate of Northern Arabia, the Trinitarian Order, and the King Hamad Global Center, and a few religious leaders from Bahrain. That conference came out with a white paper. One of them was to suggest an international day for coexistence that goes beyond the current international days and actually specifies what needs to happen on that international day. 6 months later, the International Day of Peaceful Coexistence got enacted by the General Assembly of the UN by a proposal from the King Hamad Global Center, supported by 73 core countries. That is the example of action that we need, bringing together religious leaders and politicians in order to come up with concrete solutions of what to do next. In terms of the programs that you had mentioned, yes, the King Hamad Global Center does have multiple programs, including the Higher Diploma for Peaceful Coexistence in cooperation with UPeace and Goya University. We also have the King Hamad Leadership for Coexistence program that basically takes youth from no understanding of coexistence until they are experts and practitioners in coexistence work. But all of these things are very important, and I have to mention that when I walked into the hall this morning, unbeknownst to me, there was a gentleman here from Indonesia, I'm not sure if he's still here, that walked up to me and said, "Are you from Bahrain?" And I was like, "Yes." He was like, "I am the graduate of the first batch of your diploma." It is that type of impact, regardless of how small, that we need. Now, one thing that I need to mention here is that the theme in this is peaceful coexistence. We steered away from that at the center because we found that certain groups, whether politicians, whether religious leaders, whether even social leaders, have started using the word coexistence to mean a form of conflict. And as long as peaceful is not tagged onto it, or sometimes they do, they decide that a ceasefire, as an example, is a form of coexistence. We're coexisting. We're not shooting at each other. One question this conference has to answer is not shooting at each other coexisting? My last point, and I will end it here, is that we today, because we are calling on action and not dialogue, we are calling on another conference for coexistence that puts together concrete steps where politicians, religious leaders, businessmen, cultural leaders, social leaders can come together in order to find and put practical solutions with a code of ethics on coexistence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Al-Amania, and it's really wonderful, as you sort of said, as important as dialogues are, and they are important, even more so is translating them into very concrete actions. So it's essential that people of faith and no faith come together and work together in partnership with other sectors of society. Thank you also for sharing about the King Hamad Global Center's various initiatives, among them starting the International Day of Coexistence with practical, concrete examples on the ground. That is so wonderful. That sort of reminded me of a recent initiative that Religions of Peace, in partnership with the UN Alliance of Civilization, put together, implemented, and that was the launching of this Call for Peace initiative that was launched in Guernica in Spain on 26 April. And this Call for Peace would continue in series of launches and commemoration, and the next one will be in October in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So how important these kind of initiatives are for, it's not just merely dialogue. It's important, but then we are also, alongside dialogue, we're also taking very concrete actions. So thank you for that. So now we move on to our next speaker, and I call upon Bhai Sahib Mohinder Singh Ahluwalia. Bhai Sahib Ji is a spiritual leader and chair of the Guru Nanak Nishkam Sevak Jatha and the co-president of Religions of Peace. Bhai Sahib Ji, you are the visionary behind the Peace Charter for Forgiveness and Reconciliation. So how can forgiveness serve as a concrete tool in conflict-prone or divided communities, and can be basis for securing lasting peace and harmony? Also, Bhai Sahib Ji, do share with us the Sikh perspective on peace building and peaceful coexistence.
Thank you very much, Deepika. Please accept warm Sikh greetings. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Let me at the outset state 5 debatable facts, which are my lifeline. There can be no meaningful faith or interfaith dialogue without deep respect for and connection with God. Number 2, let us not forget that each and every human is a spark of the divine through one's soul or spirit. Number 3, as God's children, we are all related kith and kin. We are spiritually interconnected and secularly interdependent. Number 4, there can be little hope for our common future without appreciating that the whole of humanity is one family and one global community. Humanity's best hope and trust lies in resting its hope in its master creator, our most powerful heavenly Father, Mother, Sport, and Guide, all in one. 85% of the humanity is directly and indirectly connected with God, addressed by thousands of names. Peaceful coexistence should not be limited to lukewarm tolerance of difference. It should, however, be for collective global families' shared flourishing. For the Sikhs, the whole of humanity is considered one race and one family. Each and every Sikh's prayer, no matter how many times it is said daily, ends with the quote, Nanak naam chaddi kala tere pane sarbat da pala, meaning we, each and every, we seek betterment of each and every human being. Furthermore, as per the value-centered ethos of the Sikh Dharma, the uplift of society only happens through selflessly mobilizing virtues, namely mercy, truthfulness, contentment, humility, and love for all creation, of which humanity is important. I quote from the, first of all, I want to talk about the Peace Charter for Forgiveness and Reconciliation is an international initiative to inspire, foster, and strengthen forgiveness, reconciliation, restorative justice, and peace worldwide. Forgiveness and reconciliation are closely related values and necessary to achieve sustainable peace between individuals, communities, and states. Let me read the preamble. One sentence. The vision of the Peace Charter for Forgiveness and Reconciliation is that the process of forgiving is vital if healing and reconciliation are to take place as part of our collective efforts to seek justice, harmony, and sustainable peace. We, and now the purpose, again one sentence. We people, mindful of our shared humanity, commit to practice and nurture forgiveness and reconciliation to foster healing, harmony, justice, and sustainable peace in our world. And there are 18 principles that go with it, which can be read from the internet. For peace to follow after the presently raging cruel, disastrous wars, whenever they may end, will demand exercising both forgiveness and reconciliation. I suggest all religious and non-religious people, ordinary citizens and parliamentarians, educational establishments, universities, which are government's guiding institutions, all governments, together with the United Nations, to continuously cooperate and collaborate humbly to urgently and positively seek much-needed peace. So, our Peace Charter for Forgiveness and Reconciliation, we are very happy, was adopted by Religions for Peace International in 2019. The Sikh Dharma teaches that a peace-building mind is a sovereign mind, liberated from ego's dominance. It is directed instead by selfless values that stem from the divine spark of the human spirit. Peace flows through living in harmony and not disharmony with the divine presence. The gentle yet mighty, subtle and unfathomable mystery we may call God. By doing so, we transform cultures of greed, animosity, mistrust, hypocrisy, and exploitation into cultures of compassion, loving care, and responsibility. In Sikh history, this responsibility was extended to safeguard those of other faiths from religious persecution as well. When the ninth Guru gave his life to protect the freedom and dignity of Hindus under the rule of an oppressive Mughal emperor, such historic examples remind me that alongside upholding human rights, human dignity, and the rule of law, we must build peace through a deepened sense of human responsibility, human fraternity, and a spiritual law of goodness that for me emanates from God, our common creator. While protecting genuine religious freedoms, extremism and the misuse of religion must be curtailed, not by demonizing religion per se or alienating adherents, but through sensitive awareness of the peace-building dimensions of sacred teachings. This becomes possible only when religious wisdom is given dignity and valued for its educational potential. Our Nishkam Start of Life Care program recognizes the very important formative impact of the prenatal, postnatal, and early life stages to foster peace-oriented dispositions in the young and in families navigating daily struggles and challenges. Birmingham's local syllabus for religious education, based on the framework of 6 spiritual and moral dispositions, are a toolkit for peace building, wherein one is required to learn from faith as opposed to learning about faith. Learning from faith as opposed to learning about faith. It is a great religious resource for personal growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhai Sahib Ji. Thank you for sort of sharing that Sikh perspective into what is required to have peaceful coexistence. Thank you too for sharing the value-based schooling that you pioneered and the transformative impact it has had. Thank you so much, Bhai Sahib Ji. So now I turn to our next speaker, Dr. Lamia Radi, who is the founding president of Foundation Memoir pour l'Avenir in Morocco. Dr. Radi will be speaking in French, so if you need simultaneous interpretation, please ensure that you have the tools that you need. So, Ambassador Lamia, if I may, reading about you and your work, I wanted to specifically ask you 2 questions. You have been engaged in countering radicalism through the preservation and transmission of historical memory. What have been the most effective strategies in reaching and engaging young people through this approach? And also, I want to ask you, Morocco has a rich tradition of interfaith coexistence. From your experience, what can other countries learn from its model, and what, if any, are its limitations? Lamia, the floor is yours.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Well, as a matter of fact, in order to answer your question, I firstly wish to answer the question, why are we working with history and with memory in order to fight radicalization and hate speech? My first remark is that in our society, on our continent, we are dealing with the psychological phenomena among our youth who are trapped in the present. In other words, they feel that they have no future and they have no control over their future. And therefore, there are strategies through which they flee. in objective terms, or perhaps by taking drugs, psychotropic drugs, and there is also a flight from radicalization, in other words, hate of others, for others. Now, the foundation, Mémoire pour l'Avenir, is trying to place these youth in a historical perspective. You see, when they feel that they are trapped in the present and that they have no future, we show them that they are not the victims of the present, but that they are the heirs, as it were, of a history, of a legacy, and they should be honored by this. So this is how we get them to move on. This allows us to fight manipulations of memory, and it helps us to create a new sort of DNA. We know that this is a problem in all countries. In fact, it is part of one's identity, basically, and there are memories which need to be dealt with in the context of the protection of our experience. What is it that we can learn from Morocco? Well, in Morocco, in particular, we work with the Tumlilin Benedictine Monastery. It is an ancient monastery of Christians, of Benedictines, and it was established in Morocco in an area where there are Muslims and Jews, and they in 1956, they promoted avant-garde interfaith dialogue. This is something which has allowed us to preserve the mechanism of dialogue that they created. When I say dialogue, I mean, this is something that we wish to share with you. Well, we mean that it is an interfaith dialogue dating back to the 50s, which isn't a dialogue based on what we share, but it is a dialogue which was established at the time, which focuses, on the contrary, on our differences, you see, not what we have in common. So the differences, and this gives us the opportunity to serenely speak about what it is that differs us. It isn't something that we're not focusing on this in order to find what we have in common, you see, but our differences. So the dialogue that was established, which I think is extraordinary, and we wish to continue to pursue this in the present and in the future. So this dialogue is based on two pillars. Now, basically, on trust. It is based on trust. And you know that the person you are speaking to is not going to try to manipulate you or convince you of something or to convert you to another religion. So that's what we mean by trust. Tirka, that's how we say it. And the second pillar, the second leg, as it were, on which this dialogue is predicated is the niyan, which means good faith. And it means that when we engage in a dialogue, it isn't done simply to win some sort of argument, or to fight and win something, and therefore to have the last word on something. As I said, we have to do this in good faith to truly achieve something concrete. So this is a dialogue which allows us to pursue our effort, and this dialogue has to be based on these two pillars, trust and good faith. If I still have a few seconds, just one final point on some of the limits to these policies for the prevention of radicalization of youth. Well, we use the historical tool, and basically we never forget that this is all born of an ecosystem. You see, we want to pursue and further dialogue for youth, but we, in doing so, need to focus on the ecosystem in which these youth live. It's not that you can ask someone to be tolerant if they have no work, if they don't have a job. How can you ask adults to be tolerant if their children can't find any work? It's a very sensitive issue. And I think that the work carried out by all the NGOs and even you as members of parliament, I think that this work and this engagement is important because you are the tools which allow the civil society, all of us, to work with this in this professional space, you see, because without this professionalism, our work will not be successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lamia, for that. And thank you for sort of emphasizing the fact and talking about how the dialogue that you were referring to not just focuses on the similarity, but on the differences, which is very, very important because each religion is different. And, you know, a lot of times when people that express concern about interfaith dialogue or action, they do so because sometimes they say it sort of dilutes your own faith. But that is not true. You know, Religions of Peace has been working in the fields of interfaith, multi-faith collaboration for more than 5 decades. And we had done a survey of our, religious leaders from around the world, from various faith traditions. And 3 things actually came out very well. First one is, it's very natural. When you come together in interfaith dialogue and action, you understand and respect people of other faith, which is understandable. You know more about other faith tradition. But the second thing that came out was that when you know about other faith and when you come into interfaith dialogues and action, you respect and love your own religion even more. And the third one is, of course, it facilitates, it's easy to work together with people of other faith. So just sort of telling you how important it is that interfaith dialogue, it doesn't dilute your own faith, but in fact, it rather strengthens it. So thank you for that. So my next speaker that I have is Mr. Isa Toha Samsu, who's the founder and executive director of the African Students for Interfaith Tolerance in Ghana. So, Mr. Samsu, you have been working to empower young people to be agents of tolerance and conflict prevention, as well as promoting a collaboration between local government and faith leaders. Can you share a success story that illustrates the power of youth-led interfaith dialogue and peace building, and how you build trust among and between the various stakeholders, including that with the parliamentarians?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, a very good morning to you all. Such a great pleasure to be with you today. And to make a presentation on that, I just want to remind all of us that our work as young people started at a time where we had global crisis. We all can recall the incidents that happened in New Zealand, where this young man attacked 2 separate mosques on Friday whilst we were praying, and also the attacks that happened in Sri Lanka during the Easter period, attacking churches, hotels, and government institutions. So while all of this was happening, together with my colleagues, we were in college, and we were asking ourselves, what can we do about this? Because we realized after just a little research that this was not happening in a very far away place in New Zealand or Sri Lanka where we may struggle to find on the map, but it was very close to us. For example, in places like Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Nigeria, we have these attacks that are happening. And just recently, an Ahmadiyya mosque was attacked, and members of the Ahmadiyya community slaughtered in the process. So we were quickly moved into action, and essentially doing what you mentioned, bringing ourselves together on a WhatsApp platform. And the WhatsApp platform essentially tried to do one thing, to introduce the other. Let people understand, for example, why Christians celebrate Easter, or why Muslims pray facing the East, or they celebrate Ramadan, and any other religious ritual that people be interested in. And we found that we're very, very powerful in terms of bringing people together. So fast forward from 2019 that we've been doing this work, now we've established something we call the Youth Interreligious Parliaments. So taking inspiration from national parliaments, we've established the Youth Interreligious Parliament as a platform, first to bring young people together to dialogue, to build trust, because it's very important to have trust before we can actually move in interfaith action. But most importantly, we have also created this platform so that we can make recommendations to national stakeholders like national parliament, the National Peace Council, etc. And I have some few recommendations to make in that regard, how we can continue to engage with young people. Because of course, we know that it is right now untenable, it's right now not feasible to talk about sustainable peace without the meaningful engagement of young people in the process. So one thing I think that members of parliament and parliaments can do is to ensure that there is that enabling environment to support the work of young people and interfaith action. In many cases, this can be very risky to talk about peace. I come from a community where there is simmering ethnic tensions and religious division, and sometimes talking about peace can mean being on the side of the other people, and that can draw threats to you. So we need to have that enabling environment to continue to have this work going. The second thing is that we cannot talk about peaceful coexistence and interfaith dialogue without focusing on FOB, freedom of religion and belief. Because for me, I think that establishes the basis and provides a legal framework for us to continue this engagement. So whilst it's important to continue to have these informal engagements of interfaith dialogue and engagement, we need to also establish it on the legal framework of FOB that respects the beliefs of everyone. Then importantly also, we need to find a way that is very creative and flexible to support the work of CSOs and youth-led organizations in this respect. We know that many countries are beginning to look at hard security, build arms, etc., but that would be insufficient if we are not able to build trust among populations, if we are not able to build communities together. The threat, as I always say, is more internal than external, because if we are internally strong, then we are safe. Then the final point I would also mention is that we need to listen. We need to listen. We should not assume, and we should question ourselves, because growing up, we all pick up biases and stereotypes about other people. Yeah. You cannot know more about them than they do themselves. So we need to listen, we need to be humble, we need to be willing and open to engage. And I hope that together we're going to create a much more peaceful, safer, and a prosperous world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Isa, for that very insightful sharing. How you gave such concrete examples of building bridges and fostering trust, and also talking about the importance of the engagement of youth. They're just not the leaders of the future. They're current, present change agents of change. They're change makers. So we need to not just talk about them in the future, but of present. And thank you so much about talking about the importance of listening. In dialogue, it's a two-way thing. It's not just about talking, but listening. And we're going to be doing that later when we open the floor to the rest of them. So before we do that, we will move on to our two respondents, but I just wanted to mention that you will find forms outside to jot down your question when we open the floor for question and answer sessions after our two respondents have spoken. So our first respondent is Dr. Leo Igwe, who is the board member of Humanist International. Dr. Igwe, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, good. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I represent Humanist International, and we are all at Humanist International excited by the extension of invitation to our organizations, because in different countries we are excluded when interfaith issues are discussed. So for me, this is a clear example of action, like Abdullah talked about, at a very highest level, and that's going to re-echo across the region and across the world. So thank you, IPU, for this initiative. So that takes me to the presentations. Ms. Monica talked about the need for us to understand the root causes. Yes, we're talking about strengthening trust. Why are we distrustful? Yes, it's important we begin to understand. Is this distrust rooted in our traditions? Is it rooted in what is written in our scriptures or practices? So it's important. And Monica made that point, and I think it is something that we need to look at. And also, she mentioned that the need for us to be forgiving, to apologize, and of course be not revengeful, in our approach to issues. Of course, these are also not important only when we are speaking to those within our faith traditions, but also those whom we are speaking with regards to those outside the traditions. Yes, Mr. Abdallah made a very important point by talking about action, because actually, when we're talking about the need for peace, it's not because of what is written in our scriptures or holy books, but actually what happens in real life. So I think that this intervention resonates with what we're doing here in terms of the need for us to translate our quest for peace into something more concrete and action-based. And I think that at Humanist International, we would like to your institute to also be inclusive in terms of the trends, so that you can get a testimony from somebody from the non-religious sector next time. So the Sikh perspective we had from Mr. Singh, of course, draws our attention to not just pay a lip service to peace, and that peace should not be just about lukewarm approach to differences. So thank you so much for that, and I think that it is something that we need to, realize in mobilizing virtues and also drawing inspiration and fostering forgiveness, across those from faith and no faith traditions. One more thing is the quest for the attempt being made in Morocco to address radicalization of youths, and the approach is the ecosystem approach, and I hope that that ecosystem approach will look beyond the Abrahamic faith, because in Nigeria they told us that they are only doing the dialogue of the people of the book. I said, okay, there are also other people who don't have books, but they should also be included. And if they don't have books, we can write new ones for them. So it is important we begin to look at that ecosystem to include people of no book, but who are people and are human beings. So lastly, Isaiah drew attention to what they're doing in terms of inclusion of the youths. And yes, it's important to emphasize FOB. And yes, thank you, Isaiah, for that. And it is something that resonates not just only with the situation in Ghana, but across the world. So thank you so much for this platform. Thank you, IPU, for what you're doing. We are all in for it.
Thank you so much, Leo, for that comprehensive sort of response to what you heard, and particularly on emphasizing the fact of the essential importance of inclusivity, particularly in interreligious dialogue and action. Our next respondent is Rachel Foster, who's the Policy Officer at Search for Common Ground. Ms. Foster, we would love to hear your response and the key takeaways from the remarks that we have heard so far.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the very insightful discussion so far. It's been really a pleasure to listen to you all. So I work for Search for Common Ground, which is one of the largest dedicated peace-building organizations globally, and we've been working on the intersections between religion and conflict and peace for essentially since the 1980s when we were founded. And there were a number of things from the panelists today and from my colleague, the respondents, that really resonated with me. And the first was the importance of not just having dialogue for dialogue's sake, but dialogue towards joint action. And you gave a number of examples already of how essential that is and the impact that it has. But particularly to make sure that we move forward together and that we don't just have a declaration and then another declaration and another declaration, but then nothing changes on the ground. Because for many people who are not in the room today, who are not even aware that this is happening, we need to make sure that those declarations have real impact in their lives, and particularly when they come from contexts where there are multiple different factors affecting the conflict. Really having these holistic solutions that don't just focus on one dimension is truly essential. And I think that's some place where support from institutions, whether it's parliaments or governments or multi-faith institutions, is really essential to help move towards that implementation. And of course, I'm talking about financial support, but I'm also talking about political support and protection for those who are doing the work on the ground and who are exposed to real risks when they are being brave enough to extend the hand to people who have been put as their enemy or the other, even though they know this is not the case. That comes with real consequences, and there should be support for that work. And finally, I want to highlight that peace building, from what you said, is a continual process. We are constantly building peace. We don't just respond in a crisis when things have spiraled, that we need to be there in the prevention phase, we need to be there in the resolution phase, and we need to be there in the healing and the forgiveness afterwards. And that is true of religious actors, it's true of parliamentarians, it's true of all of us as a society, that peace is not passive, it's actively built. And just from there, I'd like to highlight some examples from Search's own work, which really I had in mind as you were all talking. And the first is the importance of working with religious actors. And I say actors intentionally because Search doesn't just work with religious leaders. We don't just work with formal leadership, although of course we work with them, but we work with anyone in their community, women, youth, educators, influencers who have influence and who have the ability to convince their communities and to work with them. And that can look like the woman who leads her Quran study group in her local mosque. It can look like the Christian Association student or the Humanist Association student president in a university. So really taking as inclusive a definition as possible for who is involved in this work really helps us. We also see every day how interreligious dialogue becomes a reflection of pluralistic societies and healthy and resilient democracies and societies in general, that there is this work being done. And we say, for example, especially in spaces where civic space has shrunk or is difficult and there are no other spaces to have these conversations. We run religious freedom roundtables in places like Uzbekistan or Sri Lanka or Lebanon, and they have then been able to build that trust and that dialogue that was missing and take it back to their communities and start expanding it. And then finally, really taking an inclusive and right-sized approach, not underestimating the role of religion, but not overestimating it either, really understanding how it is playing into the context generally, and working to make it as inclusive as possible. And that can look like what we've done in Kenya, where we've worked with African traditional religions and creating dialogue with Abrahamic faiths, or it can look like trying to bring women into dialogue between Jews and Muslims in the Middle East, where they are often not at the table for those discussions. So it can take many forms, and you've shared many more today. So to conclude, I'd just like to leave you with something that searchers say a lot, which is peace is built at the speed of trust. This is very, very true, and I think it resonates. So I hope that for the next few days, we build trust between ourselves, amongst each other, and that we then think how we can bring that trust back to the communities and the constituents that we work with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for adding to the rich remarks that we already had with your own perspective and sharing some of the very concrete examples of Search for Common Ground that has been implemented. So we will be opening the floor for question and answers, and we've already received plenty from the floor. But before we do that, I just wanted to remind ourselves a couple of things. Please do, remember that we we have participants here from diverse background and perspective, and some of the issue sets that we are focusing are on a sensitive topic where we may disagree or diverge in our opinion. And I sort of just wanted to let you know IPU, and I'm sure all of us firmly uphold the right of freedom of expression as essential to meaningful dialogue. And at the same time, we ask all participants to express their views with respect for the dignity of others. We talked about the value of listening and respecting. I therefore hope that we can engage in a spirit of mutual understanding and keep our discussion open, inclusive, and constructive. With that gentle reminder, we will open the floor for question and answers. And please remember that you have 2 minutes to share your question and comments and observations. So our first speaker from the floor is from the Honorable Hassan Ibrahim from Bahrain. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdallah and the rest of the speakers and panelists, which honestly you have added value to this dialogue and conversation. I would like to add that I am very proud of my country, Bahrain, which I see it is a role model when it comes to interfaith, when it comes to coexistence, where we have within our parliament members, we have representatives of the Christian community, we have representatives of different religions and different sects, and we have a very good mix of each sect and religion. Bahrain is one of the few countries where in the same road you can find a mosque, a church, and a synagogue, which you don't see that in many different places in the world. So Mr. Abdallah said a very, very good point where he said, is ceasefire considered as coexistence? Coexistence, to start with, is to respect your neighbor countries, to respect the independence of the countries, to respect the internal issues of the country. So we all come here in one hand with different parliamentarians from different parts of the world and different religious sects, where we all can marry from each other, we all can live next to each other, we can all work together. Respect is the main thing here. I would like to see the rest of my intervention in Arabic, if you excuse me. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة الحضور الكرام السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يشرفني أن أشارك معكم في هذه الجلسة القيمة التي تتناول أحد أنبل القيم الإنسانية وأساسا متينا للاستقرار والتنمية، ألا وهو التعايش السلمي بين الأديان والثقافات. ففي عالم يشهد تحديات متصاعدة من نزاعات.
In a world filled with challenges and in which hate is encouraged, it's difficult to understand one another and to accept one another. And it's difficult to create societies which live in peace. Therefore, all religions, all faiths have to coexist, and they have to focus on allowing dialogue to prevail. We have to live in harmony, as mentioned in 2022 by His Holiness the Pope, who had underscored human and universal values. In Bahrain, a number of initiatives have been worked on, including the creation of the Malik Habib, a Center for Peaceful Coexistence, that we are members of. I have always wanted to focus on the Manama Declaration, which supports the activities of the IPU. It's a meeting in March in 2023. And that declaration was adopted as a final document, and it expresses the involvement of all parliamentarians and their commitment to peaceful coexistence and the struggle against all extremisms. And the UNGA accepted Bahrain's proposal to choose the 20th of January as the Peaceful Coexistence Day. The Parliament of Bahrain has worked on the international level to promote this universalist vision as a way of contributing to the building of peace and as a way of countering all forms of extremism and hate speech. This is something that the Kingdom of Bahrain firmly believes in. And we know that peaceful coexistence is not a mere slogan. It is a fundamental condition that requires our political will and our international commitment. And this can lead to the creation of fair and tolerant societies, regardless of the religions which coexist in them. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, gentleman, Honorable Abraham from Bahrain, and sort of adding on to what Mr. Almani had said about the important role Bahrain played on starting the International Peace Day for Coexistence. So before we go on to our next speaker, I would like to gently remind ourselves that we have 2 minutes for each questions and comments. So, our next from the floor speaker is Honorable Abraham Sidarji from Indonesia. Honorable Sidarji, you have the floor.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, esteemed religious leader, and honored guests. My name is Abraham Srijaya. I am a member of the Committee of Inter-Parliamentary Cooperation of the Indonesian House of Representatives. Sorry, I have to hold this. Having listened to all the panelists, I think this conference is very important, especially for us Indonesian. For those who don't know, we have our motto, Indonesia, is Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, is meaning that unity in diversity. Peaceful coexistence is not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of mutual respect, understanding, and shared responsibility. As representative of the people, parliamentarians hold a crucial role in shaping policies that foster tolerance, safeguard religious freedoms, and ensure that diversity is a source of strength, not division. Indonesia, in my country, a nation with over 1,300 ethnic groups. We have 1,300 different ethnic groups and multiple faiths, has learned that coexistence thrives through dialogue and inclusive governance under the spirit of our motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. While our Constitution and Pancasila guarantee religious freedom, we continue to face challenges: extremism, discrimination, and digital misinformation threaten harmony across the globe, making it imperative that we act decisively. Across our archipelago, people of different faiths come together, not only in tolerance, but in true cooperation. Through interfaith dialogue, joint humanitarian efforts, and shared celebration, we show the world that Bhinneka Tunggal Ika is more than just a motto. It is our way of life. Indonesia stands strong in its commitment to religious harmony. Hence, through inclusive laws, interfaith forums, and education, the government of Indonesia and the Indonesian House of Representatives, in cooperation with faith-based organizations, work hand in hand to ensure peaceful coexistence among all faiths. Together, we build a united and respectful society. And I think this conference is an opportunity to turn dialogue into action. Let us commit to strengthening legal protection, fostering cross-cultural engagement, and ensuring that our policies uphold dignity for all, regardless of belief. Together we can build a world where differences do not separate us, but instead inspire deeper unity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable CRG, for sort of emphasizing on the strength of diversity and also reminding us of the Panchasila principles for peaceful coexistence. So we move on to the next commenter from the floor, Honorable Sultania Bourguer from Algeria. And apologies for mispronouncing their name, please.
شكرا لكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. من الجزائر من مجلس الأمة عضو لجنة الشؤون الخارجية.
May peace be with you. I am a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee at the Algerian Parliament, and I was very interested in hearing your remarks. What we've heard here is quite encouraging indeed, because you're telling us that we are moving in the right direction. For the past 25 years, more or less, I've been in rooms like this one, and we speak about peace, security, and coexistence, and the fact that we have to accept the other. And we hear very beautiful words when we gather in these halls, but when we leave, we see before us that there is a war going on, and therefore the violation of rights and the use of violence and force. So we wonder, are we really speaking about peace and security and stability in these closed halls? I mean, of course, we have air conditioning, and outside there are wars, and there are these violations, these infringements. So where is the problem here? The problem is that we speak about peace, which is the responsibility of religions, of course, but religions live in peace. There is no religious conflict. The conflict is political in nature. When Muslims become political, when they talk about politics, they do this. The Hindus, the Buddhists, the Christians, they all do this. And therefore, we have to try to disarm, as it were, these politicians. We mustn't accuse the believers and the followers of religions. We mustn't accuse them of being warmongers. We don't really hear much about religious wars. Maybe centuries ago there were wars between religions. Now, there is a tendency to seek these religious grounds, as it were, when we speak about wars, in order to wage a war against others. When we speak of peace, instead we have to speak of an unarmed peace, no arms there, whereas with wars, of course, there are arms. And we need to realize that it is important, therefore, to speak in these terms. And we've heard about peace and about dialogue quite a bit. And peace is based, I think, on 4 pillars, 4 legs, as if it were a table. Maybe it can lose one, but the table will still remain standing. But it does need 4 legs, 4 pillars. One of these is justice. So the first pillar is justice. You are speaking with me, but you are not giving me anything in exchange. And to make concessions, 99% maybe, you give me a 1% concession, and you have 99% in your hands. Well, that's not fair. I've chosen a religion. You may have chosen a different religion, but as I said, we are human beings, and we are all part of one mankind. Now, we are all the children of Adam. Now, another pillar, freedom. Give me the freedom to move, to speak, to choose. And then the 4th pillar is the right of a human being to move about the world. And this is a fundamental human right. In fact, in this hall today, we speak about peace and dialogue. We're getting to know one another, and this is excellent indeed. But outside of this hall, there are wars going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for honorable gentleman from Algiers for your heartfelt and profound intervention. So we move on to our next speaker, Honorable Avery Neophyto from Cyprus.
Dear colleagues, let me begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to our host, the Italian Chamber of Deputies, for providing us this platform to reflect on the principles that unite us all, mutual respect, dialogue, and the pursuit of peaceful coexistence. My small country consists of two communities, Greek Cypriots who are Christians, Turkish Cypriots that are Turks and Muslims, and three religious groups, the Maronites, Armenians, and Latinos. My homeland has throughout the centuries evolved into a vibrant mosaic of different cultures and religions. While our diversity has become one of our greatest strengths, our island has long experienced the painful consequences of a division. For over 5 decades, Cyprus has remained divided, with part of its territory under Turkish military occupation, a reality that continues to affect the daily lives of all Cypriots. And yet, despite this long-standing division, the great desire of our people for peace, reconciliation, and a shared future testifies that religion was never the problem between the two communities in Cyprus. My small country, Cyprus, in the Eastern Mediterranean, can be a symbol of coexistence. Muslims and Christians, Greeks and Turks can live together in peace in a united Cyprus. Thank you.
Thank you for the honorable gentleman from Cyprus. Our next speaker, Honorable Konak from India's Rajya Sabha. Madam Konak, you have the floor.
Distinguished panel members and delegates. India is home to a diverse population belonging to different religions, ethnicities, and cultures, along with linguistic diversities. And India is advancing in its civilizational journey, adopting the overall theme, One Earth, One Family, One Future, during our G20 and P20 presidency. India has reiterated the will to build a mutually coexisting and inclusive global fraternity. India continues to build on its civilizational cohesiveness in the face of any seemingly intimidating agency. India regards non-interference and non-intervention as the core principles of the international polity. We have always professed the idea of peaceful coexistence at the international level through Panchshil, which emphasizes mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference, equality, mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. However, we cannot allow the destructive forces to break the harmony and unity of the country and the world. It is indeed time for peace, brotherhood, and human-centric progress. As our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has said, this is certainly not the era of war, but this is also not the era of terrorism. Zero tolerance against terrorism is the guarantee for a better world. The Indian Constitution provides equal rights to all its citizens, and it stresses need for special protection for certain marginalized groups and affirmative action policies to address past discriminations. Our Parliament has passed several legislations aimed at promoting social harmony, protecting the rights of all its citizens, and addressing issues related to discrimination and marginalization. The government is implementing various schemes for the welfare and upliftment of every section of society, you will be happy to note that India is now advancing to achieve the goal of saturation coverage of all our welfare schemes. Commitment of the people's representatives and the government for attaining equitable development builds the trust of people in a democracy. This conference is a positive way forward to come together and cooperate to develop a safe, peaceful, and prosperous tomorrow for our people and the planet. Thank you.
Konak. Now I call upon Honorable Muskamonov from Uzbekistan.
Morning. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the member of the Parliament of Uzbekistan. And thank you for today's conference. And I have a question for Mr. Isa Tora. And you talked about the engagement of the youth in terms of interfaith dialogue. And as far as I'm concerned, that you are quite experienced in this sphere. I mean, in terms of the youth system. And as long as there is a youth parliament in Uzbekistan, I would like to know more about your experience and how can we activate this youth parliament of Uzbekistan in terms of fight against these interface issues. And what kind of solutions do you have to solve these issues? Thank you in advance.
Gentleman from Uzbekistan, if you could respond to that question.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to hear that you have this youth parliament in your country. So I have some few recommendations. First of all, I would remind all of us about the need to listen to young people. What are their expectations, what are their needs is very important. In our Youth Intelligence Parliament, what we do is that we build capacity because we see that a lot of young people come in with the energy that they need to build peace. However, sometimes how to do that can become a challenge for many young people. So let's invest in knowledge building and capacity building for young people. Then secondly, what we also do is that we do joint projects. So young people of different, so in Ghana, we largely focus on religion and ethnicity because those are the very contentious issues. So we bring people of these different backgrounds to work together on joint projects that could actually help enrich that kind of engagement. Then also we do issue communique or recommendations to national stakeholders. And these recommendations, as we've seen, is that they shouldn't not just be like received, but young people need to see that these recommendations are being put into practice so that they get more motivation and they are able to give out more ideas in order to be able to shape how the country is run. So if we're able to adopt some of these policies, I think that would help enrich that engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. For that very practical guidance. Hopefully it can be replicated in Uzbekistan. Now I go to the Honorable Naik from Pakistan. Honorable Naik, the floor is yours.
Trust is essential for social cohesion, effective governance and peace. When trust is lost, radical ideologies and identity-based violence often fill the void. In this context, parliaments have a critical responsibility to rebuild trust by promoting inclusion, human rights, and a shared sense of belonging. This includes enacting legislation to address a root cause of conflict, occupation, discrimination, and inequality, as well as confronting hate speech. Similarly, interfaith dialogue is vital tool for overcoming prejudice and fostering mutual understanding. Parliamentarians must support and institutionalize such dialogue through interfaith forums, inclusive laws, and sustained findings. In Pakistan, interfaith harmony is embedded in our constitution. We have reserved seats for minorities in the parliament, and all this gives basic human rights and freedoms to minorities in Pakistan. The white part in Pakistan's flag represents these minorities and are represented in both houses of parliament. On the left, Senator Gurdeep Singh, a Sikh, is sitting with me, and that is an evident example of the harmony, interfaith harmony of the minorities in Pakistan. Our Kartarpur corridor, opened in 2019, is a unique peace initiative allowing Sikh pilgrims from India free access without visa to the holiest shrines. We observe National Minorities Day on 11th of August, honoring our founding fathers' commitment to protect minority rights, our national cultural policy and the works of institutions such as the National Commission on Minorities and Ministry of Religious Affairs and Interfaith Harmony reflect Pakistan's holistic approach to promoting tolerance and inclusion. My question to the panelist is, what further steps should be taken immediately to build trust among various religious communities for interfaith harmony and to avoid conflict and war in the world which is going on? Thank you.
Honorable gentleman from Pakistan. Then I call upon Honorable Tuji from Morocco.
السيد الرئيس، في البداية أريد أن أشكر أولا البرلمان الإيطالي والاتحاد البرلمان الدولي على أنه أتاح الفرصة للبرلمانيين وللقيادة الحزبية القيادة الدينية على الالتئام في روما عاصمة التاريخ وعاصمة الحضارة للنقاش في أمور أساسية للحوار، وهذا الحوار الذي دائما يجب أن يفضي إلى الاعتراف بالآخر. في هذا الوقت في الواقع الذي نلاحظ فيه تطور كبير فيما يخص النزاعات الدولية، الحروب سواء في الشرق الأوسط أو في أوروبا، ففي هذا الوقت أتاحت هذا الاجتماع الفرصة للتحاور وكي يفضي هذا الحوار إلى الإصغاء إلى الآخر، لأن الإصغاء هو الذي يؤدي إلى السلم. فكما قالت الأخت السفيرة على أن المغرب له تقليد كبير جدا فيما يخص التعايش، فبلدنا انطلاقا من الحرب العالمية الثانية وكلنا نتذكر.
Since the Second World War, we've seen that European countries waged a war against the Jews, and our country was under French occupation, French rule, and our king said no. He said no, he did not want to hand over the Moroccan Jews to the Nazis in the Vichy government, and this shows that Morocco is the country where there can be coexistence, and this is the coexistence that we do indeed have in Morocco. I also wish to tell you a wonderful story. I would ask you to watch a documentary film that was produced, I believe, last year. This documentary talks about coexistence, religious coexistence in Morocco, where a priest, Simona Vissuto, founded a monastery, and the monastery reflects the coexistence between Muslims, Christians, and Jews in our region. It shows how this can be possible. In 2003, there were terrorist attacks in Morocco, in Casablanca in particular, and we heard people say that youth don't have hope when there is religious extremism. Well, these youth who perpetrated those attacks in Casablanca, when they did that, Morocco tried, thanks to the foundation of the League of the Ulemas, Morocco played a very important role so as to be able to speak to these youth in the prisons. These were the youths who carried out those terrorist attacks, and we saw that through dialogue, many of these youth are now engaged in politics because they said no to terrorism. They left terrorism behind, and they left behind all those notions that influence them, that condition them, and they've now become regular human beings who know how to coexist with other people in Morocco. Morocco is one of the few countries who historically, who over time have believed in peaceful coexistence among religions. And we cannot speak about development and progress unless we have a firm faith, not a political faith, but a sound faith and belief in the fact that coexistence among religions is at the very basis of development and progress in any country in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable gentleman from Morocco. Now I call upon Dr. Alice Chan. You have the floor. From the Center for Civic Religious Literacy.
Good morning. Hi, I'm over here. Thank you very much for taking my question and sharing this time with me. My name is Dr. Alice Chan. I'm from the Center for Civic Religious Literacy in Canada, and we are a non-religious nonprofit that works across the country to promote understanding about religion, spirituality, and non-religion, perspectives, traditions, cultures, institutions, etc. And we work with all different groups across the country in Canada. And my question is first and foremost for Mr. Shamsu, and really for everyone else on the panel, if you have thoughts to share about this, because our work really engages all groups across Canada, all age groups, all sectors, organizations, etc. But with the youth particularly, I'm interested in your experience. How are the youth in the Youth Council, how are they engaging with the disinformation, misinformation that they're seeing online among their peers and adults in their life? What are their thoughts? What are their ideas? And are they sharing these thoughts with parliamentary members in Ghana? Thank you.
Chang. And so Isha, I think that was a question for you again. So if you could respond to that.
Yes, thank you very much for the question on the youth engagement on disinformation and misinformation online. Yes, indeed, just yesterday was the International Day for Countering Hate, and we see that manipulated online. And a lot of young people and the youth that we work with in the Youth Intelligence Parliament always raise this concern about the need for us to ensure that there are safeguards online. Because just like I said, I come from a place where there is this simmering ethnic conflict, and we see that young people would go online and write stuff that actually are not true. They can just create a scenario that this group has gone to attack this group to incite that kind of violence. So one recommendation that is being made is to find out how can the security services and the intelligence services to track those behind these fake anonymous accounts, to be able to track down who are the people manipulating these platforms. But importantly, it's also important to highlight how these same young people are able to leverage these digital spaces to promote messages of peace and unity in this context. However, still struggling with the digital divide. Many of these young people are also cut off because of access to the internet and cost of data and all of that, which is also a recommendation that we make to parliamentarians to see how they can be able to ensure that we are able to open up this opportunity to other young people who would potentially be able to counter these messages online but are cut off because they're not able to have access to this platform. So we need to track down these anonymous accounts and those people who share the hate messages online, but also importantly, how can we continue to engage and empower young people to counter these messages online by sharing other positive messages that they do have with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isha, for that. Now we move on to the last intervention from the floor. After this, we will provide our panelists with 1 minute brief final sort of comments. So our last intervention from the floor is from Langton Chikua from the Parliament of Zimbabwe. Honourable gentleman from Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
It's fine. Thank you very much. From Zimbabwe, ours is more of a comment and a contribution as well. In regards to call for action, we agree and we concur with all other previous speakers on the need, the imperative for us to have a call to action. As a nation, as Zimbabwe, what we have done as our parliament, we have got the legislative framework which supports the call to action. For example, we have got our section 60 of our constitution, which guarantees freedom of religion and belief, ensuring all citizens can contribute to national development regardless of faith, the maintenance of peace and order Act, which also provides for that, which strengthens interfaith tolerance, safeguarding the right to peaceful assembly and practice diverse religions without fear of discrimination or violence. So we are saying, in terms of a call to action, let's have the legislative framework, let's have the laws which safeguard that, so that indeed it's a call to action. Thank you.
Honourable gentleman from Zimbabwe. So now I turn to our panelists to give their final brief 1 minute of remarks. So first I start with Bhai Sahibji.
Thank you very much. I just want to quote here something we did in Great Britain on the 3rd January 2000. We all made a commitment. Let me read out. Faith community representatives all said, in a world scarred by evils of war, racism, injustice, and poverty, we offer this joint act of commitment as we look to our shared future. Then we all committed. We commit ourselves as people of many faiths to work together for the common good, uniting to build a better society grounded in values and ideals we share. Community, personal integrity, a sense of right and wrong, learning wisdom and love of truth, care and compassion, justice and peace, respect for one another, for the earth and its creatures. We commit ourselves in a spirit of friendship and cooperation to work together alongside all who share our values and ideals to help bring about a better world now and for generations to come. I think this was a good commitment and we should abide by it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhai Sahibji. Lamia.
Yes, thank you, Deepika. Just for conclusion for me, I would say that we have to go on, dialogue, opening dialogues and acting at the same time. We shouldn't be afraid of our differences. Maybe we're not, but maybe our youth are, because of new technology. They are not used to this anymore. They are not used the traditional old system, social system, where the society used to teach to our children how to behave with others, how to behave with differences. This system is now slowly fading away. So the real challenge maybe for our youth is not to learn the living together or to learn the coexistence, but to learn the know-how to coexistence, the techniques of how do we live together, the know-how to live together. This is maybe what is most fading away, and what we as adults and countries, we have to preserve and transmit to our youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Almani?
We've heard a lot of very interesting comments today. I think the biggest takeaway, and we've heard that from multiple of the honorable parliamentarians and religious leaders, as well as other participants. However, when we're talking about action, as one of the honorable parliamentarians said, it's very good to talk about it inside a closed room. And I think the honorable member from Zimbabwe also framed it very well when he said, what's going to happen after this? One small step I can tell you, and we're graced with the presence of the Vicar of Northern Arabia, Bishop Aldo Berardi. He will be able to give insight on how the ecosystem that Lamia talked about was created in Bahrain along with multiple other actors as a model for ecosystems that work. So in addition to all of that, we believe that it is the time for all actors, parliamentarians, legislators, politicians, to come together, to put together in an international conference with clear output recommendations of what to do next. The International Conference for Coexistence needs to be an outcome of this conference. Thank you.
Thank you. I think peaceful coexistence and reconciliation is one of the most difficult work for us, because these touch very deep emotions. And please let me not give you political correct answer, but suggest all of you a homework for these 3 days. I suggest to go out from this room and shake your hand or have a cup of coffee or tea with a lady or gentleman from a delegation of a country or nation who you don't like. Because we have many prejudice and bad feelings about us, about nations. And I think the media, the role of media is very important, because it can manipulate us. So I deeply believe in personal play, personal role, personal example. So if you have a cup or tea with a lady or gentleman for a dislike nation or country, ask her or him about her feelings, her motivation to come to this conference, his or her roots, life, personal experiences. And you will have emotions, feelings about this small conversation. And if you go home, tell that to the community, to your fellow representatives, and give real example for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for that simple yet very profound practical guidance. Isha, the last words.
Thank you very much. I think that we all know that our world is a very difficult place in terms of dialogue and peace, and so many people do understand why are we even having this dialogue in the first instance. But I say we cannot afford to give up on a peaceful tomorrow, even if today is not. It would be shameful and a failure if we do so, because peace building has become difficult or unpopular. We have to continue reaching out and exploring creative approaches to promote interfaith harmony, dialogue, and peace. We are doing that for ourselves, but more importantly, for future generations to live free from the fear of violence and oppression. And I would conclude by asking us this question: what can we ourselves and our institutions do more to promote and sustain interfaith dialogue? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isha, for that. So it's very abundant and clear that to address the ever-growing and evolving challenges faced by the human family, it requires unprecedented collaboration across cultures, religions and peoples and sectors. And so therefore, and we talked about it throughout, how critical it is that legislatures and religious actors serve as bridge builders between different sectors of society and play an integral role in promoting and upholding the fundamental rights and freedom of all citizens, and to create a condition for peaceful coexistence. We know that, and I think each of the panelists have mentioned this, that it is not enough just to call for peace. We must build the ethical and institutional architectures that sustain it. So may our actions, rooted in our deepest values and common humanity, give rise to a world where peace is not just an exception, but the norm, where inclusion is not aspirational, but lived, and where every person can thrive and flourish with dignity, purpose, and hope. So thank you all. First of all, thank you to all the distinguished panelists and respondents. Great appreciation to Mauricio and U and Roberto from IPU, sitting over there as well, for their support. And last but not the least, thank you all for being such a great participants. Okay. Before I end, we sort of left out one, I think, honorable gentleman from Bahrain.
شكرا جزيلا. في الواقع لن أطيل عليكم. احنا الآن نختم هذا اللقاء.
Thank you. And let me just conclude this first part of our day by adding one thing. We were wondering how we could actually achieve peaceful coexistence. And I think the most essential thing we can do, what our governments can do, is to introduce the approach to coexistence into our education systems so that we can educate a generation that understands what we are actually talking about. That's something that we have to do. Now, in Bahrain, we have a program on citizenship, which was recently implemented, that actually touches upon these topics. And I think that this can truly be useful for everyone. Thank you.
Bahrain. And with that, we end it. Thank you all for being such a wonderful participants. Thank you, panelists, once again.
Hello. Hello, I think this is working, I believe, right?
It's very well.
It's working very well. Welcome to the second session. Welcome. We're going to give 30 seconds for people to settle and trying to end the side conversations until we will get into this thematic working session 2. All right, I need silence in the room. We are making progress, but I needed more. Still, I need silence in the room. We are getting there. We are getting there already. Good morning again. Yes. I see my sisters from India. They are giving me thumb up, thumb up. So that's good. So meaning that they're following closely, member of parliament from India. All right, we're gonna begin our second session, and I think what we are hearing is coming from the lobby, but they will come in soon. Well, good morning again. My name is Mohammed Al-Sanusi. I am the executive director of the Network for Religious and Traditional Peacemakers, which is a global network, as well as I also serve as a commissioner on the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. The United States Commission is a federal government agency aimed to advance religious freedom and to report on the state of religious freedom from around the world. So we're so delighted to be here in this meeting, and particularly in this session here. The theme of this session is the lessons from the Marrakesh Declaration, upholding the rights of religious minorities. So the focus of the session is on the Marrakesh Declaration and how the declaration itself actually helped to promote religious freedom for everyone, everywhere, all the times. So we assembled a quite impressive panel for you, but the way that we want to handle this session is going to be a dialogue. It's going to be conversation, because this is a session before lunch. So usually a session before lunch, you need to engage the people so they can get ready for the lunch. So let's get into that. But of course, we want to also express our gratitude to IPU, as well as the co-organizers of this program, including Religions for Peace, and the sponsors of this session as well. So, before I begin, I have a question that I want to pose to everybody, that how many of you in this room, please show hands, how many of you in this room heard about Marrakesh Declaration before getting into this room? I just hand. I'm curious. All right, how many people? How many people? Maybe somebody can take a picture of this, because this is very important. How many people actually heard about the Marrakesh Declaration? So let's say it's probably 1/3 of this room. Bahrain heard about it. Cameroon, of course. Algeria, for sure. Morocco. It should come in the top of the list, of course. It was held in Marrakesh, Morocco, right? So Morocco on the top of the list. I want to see what other country. Oh, of course, Saudi Arabia. I remember Sheikh bin Hamid was in Marrakesh when we did this 10 years ago. Sheikh Saleh bin Hamid. I remember that clearly. He was representing, His Majesty the King of Saudi Arabia. I remember that. Which other country? I don't want to leave anybody behind. I don't see. Is this India? India heard about the Marrakesh Declaration. Wonderful, great. What other country? I don't want to miss anybody. Oh, okay. I can't see that. Zimbabwe. Wow. Any other country? All right. Oh, Pakistan. Pakistan heard about it. This is very important. Very important. No, it's really very impressive. I mean, I'm very happy, really, to hear this. What that means, we're going to have a good discussion, because majority of the people, maybe 1/3 of the room, they already know about the declaration and the role the declaration could play. I mentioned the Marrakesh Declaration as a theological document that came from the Muslim communities around the world. But the declaration itself built on a 1400-year history, where the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, actually drafted and issued the Medina Charter, Sahifat al-Medina. In English, Medina Charter. In Arabic, Sahifat al-Medina. Those who speak Hindi and Urdu, they call it Mithaqi Medina. Is that correct, my brothers? Mithaqi Medina. It's an amazing document. A document that called everybody, everyone living in that time in the Arabian Peninsula as a community, member of the community. And when you are in that community, in the diversity in that community, you are free to practice your religion. So the Marrakesh Declaration is actually built on the 1400-year history. And I'm mentioning the Marrakesh Declaration. I also want to acknowledge that there are many other theological documents came from different traditions, even before Islam. They are documents from the Jewish tradition, Judaism. They are documents from Christianity, and of course from Islam, and from the Eastern religions as well, from Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Confucianism. All of these, they are theological documents to advance religious freedom for everyone, everywhere, all the time. But the problem is those documents are underutilized. Those documents are not utilized to advance religious freedom. But the Marrakesh Declaration came and to revive that 1400-year history, as well as to implement. So that's why we're going to discuss today the Marrakesh as the lessons and how we could be implemented. You know, the implementation of the Marrakesh Declaration, of course, is taking a number of shapes and a number of ways, and we're gonna basically have a discussion on that. But I want to single out one project that we have been working on it for almost 5 years now. And we implement the Marrakesh Declaration through that project. The project called is the Dutch funded, I have to make that sure. It's funded by the Dutch, they will be happy. It's the Dutch funded joint initiative for strategic religious action called GISRA. You can just call it GISRA. To support the implementation of the Marrakesh Declaration. Through a number of consultations that we have done around the world in 7 countries, 5 countries in Africa. I don't see Senegal is here. I don't think Senegal is among them. But there is Ethiopia, Mali, Nigeria. Oh, Senegal is raising hand. Nigeria, as well as Kenya and Uganda in Africa. And Indonesia and Iraq. These are the 7 countries that in the past 4.5 years continue to advance religious freedom through the implementation of the Marrakesh Declaration, to promote peaceful coexistence and collective collaboration among different religions and ethnic groups, to cultivate culture of peace, mutual understanding, and respect by integrating the principles of the Marrakesh Declaration into education and educational curricula, to develop strategies for religious leaders and actors to promote positive narratives about religious diversity and mutual respect, to develop and maintain engagement between religious leaders as well as actors and political leaders and parliamentarians, both at the local level and the national level as well, and to maintain sustained efforts to follow up on the implementation of the Marrakesh Declarations. I can go on and on, but I just want to say that, you know, we're honored to have you all with us, and we continue to implement. But the panel that we assembled to you this morning, we're almost noon, is a very impressive panel. Some of these panelists are the founders of the Marrakesh movement. Some of them attended the Marrakesh Declaration meeting. Some of them taught Marrakesh. Some of them attended the first ever implementation meeting of the Marrakesh Declaration that took place almost 10 years ago. So, but without any further ado, I want to get into the panel so that we have more time for all of you as a parliamentarians, as an interfaith leaders to actually interact here. But in this panel, I want to begin by you, Your Excellency Sheikh Al-Mahfouz bin Baya. Sheikh Al-Mahfouz bin Baya is the Secretary General of the Abu Dhabi Forum for Peace. And this forum played a critical role in the development and the implementation of the Marrakesh Declaration more than a decade ago. I'm talking about more than 10 years ago. That's when the Marrakesh Declaration was issued. But before that, the forum has been working on the preparation of this for almost 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. So Sheikh Al-Mahfouz, and I'm not going to go through his long bio. You have that. You can look into that. But getting to you directly and asking you a question, you have been in the beginning of this. You accompanied the journey. My question to you, what progress has been made in adapting this framework of the Marrakesh Declaration to help everybody, parliamentarians, community leaders, to advance freedom of religions or belief? The floor is yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله.
In the name of Allah, the Merciful. Dear brothers and sisters, it isn't easy to take the floor in front of all of you. Maybe I don't deserve to have this audience before me, listening to me. I wanted to greet you in my language and I'll switch to English.
They need to a little bit struggle to listen to the translation. إعلان مراكش كان بالنسبة للقائمين عليه ونتاج.
Well, the Marrakesh Declaration is the outcome of the summary of a number of religious concepts for which our religious leaders are responsible so that they can hold on to the knowledge we have inspired by the Quran and the Islamic tradition as a way of remembering it and making it available to everyone. Now, luckily for us, in the Abu Dhabi Peace Forum, we decided to set up a think tank, the goal of which was to perform a number of, let's call them intellectual blitzes, inspired by religious concepts, which is something the Islamic community was engaged in. Although it wasn't a very proactive approach, although our nation is a living nation, we went back to the Medina document and we decided to revitalize the message contained therein, and I feel we were successful in that task. Thanks to God, thanks to our religious leaders, our ulemas who love this nation. Because by doing good, we can only produce good. And therefore, it was important for us to be committed. We had to continue in our work through meditation, through thought. And we continued to meditate and think while we drafted the text of the Marrakesh Declaration. Now, no Islamic country refrained from approving the declaration. No ulema, no religious leader criticized the Marrakesh Declaration. Luckily, the Kingdom of Morocco hosted the meeting under the guidance of His Majesty Mohammed VI, with a very generous support from the United Arab Emirates and from the generous participation of all Islamic countries who supported and approved the Marrakesh Declaration. Now, this declaration isn't a law to be complied with. It is a reminder which underscores a number of concepts we may have forgotten because religion was taken over by some. And I remember His Majesty Mohammed VI's message, who said, "We cannot exploit religion to violate the rights of minorities in the Islamic world." Now, this is a concept which is often repeated in the Marrakesh Declaration, and it is a real vision aimed at protecting religion from violence. as a way of making sure that religion isn't manipulated and exploited by violence. Now, this is a challenging journey that we have embarked upon, of course, although it embraces a number of concepts which may be new to some. Now, many had given up. But thanks to the great mercy of Islam, we were able to come up with the declaration, which goes to show that Islam has nothing to do with the violence which is caused by those who claim to be acting in the name of Islam. We all live under the same laws with the same rights and duties in our countries. And therefore, this is, it's almost as if this identity had been put to sleep for a long time before being reawakened.
Here, for the parliamentarians to take this Marrakesh Declaration and to change it to a law. Inclusive citizenship, equal, everything should be included. It's a noble document. We're trying our best to make sustainable policy, to remind people that if you have a violence against your minority, not in the name of our religion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Al-Mahfouz. It's for these few minutes describing the Marrakesh Declaration. ولكن دعني أسألك سؤال. قبل إعلان مراكش قبل 10 أعوام.
It was very important. Thank you.
الاجتماع الأول كان في موريتانيا. الاجتماع الثاني كان في تونس. وعدة المراحل تحضيرا لإعلان مراكش. ولكن
some efforts were made to prepare the Marrakesh Declaration, and you preceded me in launching an appeal to our parliamentarians to make sure that the Marrakesh Declaration can become something that can be implemented. This declaration was welcomed, and I remember that on the 26th of June 2016, the declaration was adopted. And at the time, Mr. Barack Obama was President of the United States. And once His Excellency, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, once he discovered the contents of the declaration, he said that the leaders of the Islamic world had gathered in Marrakesh to publish a declaration for universal good. And after that, the Organization for Islamic Cooperation and other institutions adopted the declaration. They quoted it. And all institutions underscored how important the declaration was. And it is included in the documents that are mentioned whenever we talk about freedom of religion. Therefore, this is the declaration that aims at supporting freedom, religious freedom globally. You talked about enshrining the contents of the declaration. Your father, our father, Ben Bia, underscored that the declaration is indeed very important. And it's important to make sure that the messages contained in the declaration are disseminated as much as possible.
We have a long plan. We already started. We have a accredited college in the United States of America in California called Zaytuna College. The president, Hamza Yusuf, and we now teaching Marrakech Declaration there. Marrakech Declaration, it's an alliance of virtue. We're having a book coming with 9 religions. It's based on Marrakech Declaration. Marrakech Declaration even is not advancing the vision of Muslims in the world, but advancing the vision of other religions. I remember Pastor Bob Jr. in London, he stand up front of the conference of Freedom of Religion conference, and he said, Muslims, they present their vision for 21st century through Marrakech Declaration. But he said the other religions, they did not have any document for 21st century. And if you read Marrakech Declaration, it's a theologian document coming from the world of Islam for our vision for 21st century. And we would love to call now, not Muslims to practice it, other religions, other nations in the world, they need to adopt Marrakech Declaration. If we're not advancing technology, we're advancing humanitarian studies. Marrakech Declaration is evident that Islam can challenge. It's a human right declaration for 21st century. Seriously, Marrakech Declaration, it's a document does not happen. It's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift when scholars sit and look back to their concepts for inclusive citizenship. I have no plan to take it forward. But those they need Marrakech Declaration, they need to come forward to us and take this document. So it will benefit them. It will benefit them for coexistence. But I'm just doing one statement. If anything happened to minorities in the name of my religion, this is my statement that has nothing to do with my religion. So don't make it excuse there. So we said our word. This is our document. This is our opinion. Freedom of religion and belief. But please, when you come to my society, you need to respect only one thing, the society tranquility. There is a tranquility in the societies, need to be respected. There is a tradition. Of course, I'm a global citizen. I'm sure every one of you been in so many countries. But you don't feel what people feel back home. We need to educate them. But not about their neighbors. No, those are obligation and your duty to live with them in coexistence and to share with them your wealth and your space. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I just need a number. The Marrakech Declaration translated to how many languages so far? Give me a number. Or you can mention a couple of languages. You have 10 seconds.
Around 10 languages. Maybe 10. Today they're giving thousands of copies of Marrakech Declaration in Beijing.
Oh.
And they're giving Abu Dhabi Declaration for Inclusive Citizenship.
So translated to Chinese,
to
Urdu,
French, Urdu, German.
Yeah.
I think there's so many languages.
So many
translated to.
Okay, we can check that out. So thank you so much. Thank you. Now I want to move on to my good friend Professor Catherine Marshall. Professor, you know it all. Probably Professor Marshall doesn't really need any introduction. She has been on those circles for so long. She's a mentor to many of us in terms of advancing interreligious dialogue and collaboration, advancing religious freedom. And I remember Professor Marshall attended the first actual implementation meeting immediately when we came back from Marrakech to Washington, and was hosted by the Embassy of Finland in Washington. Professor Marshall was in the room talking about it. So And she attended the Marrakesh Declaration as well, in Marrakesh. Now, my question to you, the Marrakesh Declaration underscores the moral imperative to protect religious minorities and promote peaceful coexistence. Considering your work at the intersection of religion, peace building, and development, how can the principles of the Marrakesh Declaration be more systematically integrated into the triple nexus approach, particularly in fragile and conflict-affected contexts, so that efforts to uphold freedom of religion or belief are not siloed, but instead strengthening long-term resilience, inclusive governance, and sustainable peace? Long question, I need a short answer.
You have reminded me, Mohammed, that I have been in these circles for a long time. Thank you.
We need your wisdom all the time, right?
But I'm going to take two different directions. I think the first, which you've emphasized so much, and you and Sheikhna have emphasized, that this declaration, which many of you in the room have in fact heard of and have been working with in different ways, has a special importance. There are many declarations. In fact, one project that's underway right now is a dialogue of declarations, because there are so many different declarations that people need to try to sort of navigate what they mean. But this Marrakesh Declaration, I think, plays a very special role, because it does reflect both a process, an effort to bring together and to engage people on one of the particular challenges, which is, at a broad sense, the challenge of diversity, of religious, but it's also ethnic, national, economic diversity. And again, I think the basic principle is that we know in biology, we know in life, we know in food and everything else, diversity is critically important. And diversity makes for creativity, it makes for the excitement of life. And yet we also know that diversity, particularly when people are particularly passionate about something, is not easy to manage in the short term. So I think the Marrakesh Declaration is trying to come to terms, particularly with the challenges of religious diversity and some of the tensions that go with it. So I think that the Marrakesh Declaration, as you have very movingly, you and Sheikhna very movingly presented, stands out as a particular moment in history, but also a continuing challenge of respected citizenship, of mutual respect, of really managing difference in a world where we value diversity and difference. So I think that's the first sort of set of issues. So this is I think the fact that this panel is here, that we are going back to the Marrakesh Declaration and saying this is a living commitment, it's a living effort to deal with diversity. And in fact, I know a few of us here will be going from here to a conference next week in Singapore, which is on cohesive societies, which is basically dealing with a similar set, a very related set of issues. So I think that is important. But you asked me a huge question that had to do with everything, but I think it does underscore what is the essence of the conference that we're looking at here, which is dealing with the role of religion in public life, in global affairs. And it is a subject that has been very problematic to deal with. And we all know context matters, that the ways in which governments, parliaments, even civil society engage with religious communities, with religious leaders and actors of different kinds, varies tremendously. And there are not very many good models. in many societies, the basic idea has been almost to ignore religion until you have problems with religious minorities and you have friction, you have violence, you have tension, and then you come to a set of activities which basically deal with the problems associated with religion. So religion becomes a problem. You have the extremism, fighting violent extremism, and some of the manifestations, as we've heard, that are marginal, that are not the core of the religious essence, but which have, in a sense, dominated a lot of the public policy discussion. So in the areas that I work, which include the academic, the development world, the multilateral development banks, the United Nations system, and frankly, civil society, but above all, and that's why we're gathered here, the elected officials, people who represent the people, I think we need to move to a different paradigm. And it is, I think, at the core of the Marrakesh Declaration, but at the core of some of the work I do with the G20, the Interfaith Forum, is to recognize the role of religion in every aspect of public life and public policy. And we call that religious engagement. And religious engagement, of course, includes human rights principles, the right to freedom of speech, the right balanced freedom of speech, the right to a decent life for every citizen, male, female, every citizen, every person. But that it recognizes that religious engagement goes to education, it goes to the health sector, it goes to water, it goes to transportation, it goes to energy. In every single issue, anti-corruption governance issues, religious engagement needs to be seen as an integral part of every aspect of public policy. And so I think that is the sense that we want to take the principles of respect and caring and understanding religious literacy, which will be a topic we'll discuss later during the conference. What does that mean? Yeah. And find much more effective ways than we have now in most countries to see how do we appreciate the full range of religious involvement in our public policy. Every one of the Sustainable Development Goals, every one of the targets, 169 targets, every single one of them has a religious element. Now, we all know that what is most important is people, so education and health, the capabilities. We know that peace is critically important. We know that peace cannot come without development, without hope, without a path forward. We know that means that we need to balance the vision of religious communities with their care for the most vulnerable, with our commitment to innovation and to development, to a different kind of life. In other words, all of the 5 Ps that represent the sustainable
And what are the 5 Ps? People, prosperity, planet, partnership,
prosperity.
Prosperity, I said that. We're missing one.
Peace.
Peace, okay. So people, peace, planet, people, planet, prosperity, and partnership. And partnership between government and NGOs, which is the Sustainable Development Goal number 17, which is calling for it. Professor Marshall, you made a strong call this afternoon on engaging religion in all of these aspects of life. But people always say that, we're not touching religion, right? There is a lot of negativity coming from religion. How are we going to answer that? And we should stay away from it because it brings so many problems. So how are we going to answer that? Knowing that 84% of the planet populations are affiliated with some sort of religion.
I think we have to do a better job of storytelling.
Storytelling.
And evidence. In other words, we need to document much better, both with data, but also with stories and with human stories. And we also, I do think we need to recognize complexity.
Okay.
That there are many religious communities,
Yeah.
they are very diverse, they are very dynamic, they're not static. They're very much part of the changing landscape of the geopolitical world that we face today. But if we don't take the religious element into account, we're missing something that is of great importance to all of humanity, to all of us, frankly, in one way or another. As someone said, everyone has faith. The question is what you have faith in.
That's right.
And I think the theme of trust is also of tremendous importance. So having an intelligent, thoughtful engagement, which is what we count on parliamentarians and civil society and also our scholars and our leaders.
Again, partnership.
To try to bring, to shift this paradigm away from nervousness about the religious roles, an awareness of the complexity, but also a respect for the value that they bring to everything from dealing with our existential questions. Why are we here? How do we relate to one another? But also, how do we bring about the potential for development, which we know is the most exciting thing of our times, that we have the possibility for all the 8 billion people on this planet to give them a decent life.
Thank you so much, Professor Marshall. You give us a lot of substance here. I mean, I want to go on and on and on, but I need to get to Robert. You know, Robert is patiently waiting patiently here, and I wanna get to Robert, and then of course I want to hear from my sister Najat as a respondent, but I want to come to you. So get ready. I already have a lot of requests from parliamentarians, but I need more. Robert, you know, Robert Madubbo, you are the founder of the Badeli Tana Initiative, and you are bringing to us the voice for youth, right? And we are just so excited to have you in this panel. And your initiative, Robert, focusing more on work at the grassroots level, which is so critical, and we need it. So my question to you, you know, Robert, is that you have had the opportunity as a part of the GISRA project that we're talking about, and you also engage in the training for the Marrakesh Declaration as well. So can you please show more on what you learned in training and how you have been implementing the principles of the Marrakesh Declaration within your own community? You are coming from Kenya, right? You're coming from a very strong country. So tell us how you do that at the grassroots level.
Thank you so much for the invite for me to be in part of this panel. And my name is Madubi Robert from Kenya. I'm the founder and executive director of Badili Tana Initiative. It's a local organization in Tana River. And also I'm a Freedom of Religion and Belief Fellow and the First Freedom Foundation. And I'm happy to be sharing about what I've learned, what I've interacted with. First of all, the trainings that we have had on the declaration and the implementation of GISRA program was very transformative. One, because for me it was like a mirror. A mirror has like a direct transformation of you, but in a smaller magnification of you. But again, it gives the clarity of you. So for me I was asking myself, if I'm in the majority world, in majority religion world, and I went to another region where I was the minority. How will I want to be treated? Asking myself that means that if I'm in the majority, I treat people the same way if I'll be in the minority world. So for me, it gives teachings that we are all aware of, the Quran, which again, it's not new to the Islamic world. And through the implementation of the principles, I have interacted to understand even more about other people, information that I was not aware of. For example, I come from Tana River County, a part of Kenya. I was born from a Protestant family. Later found myself a Catholic. But I lived in a society where majority are Muslims. So the issue of religious inclusion or tolerance is personal to me because it's something I've been interacting with every day. I'm the pioneer of GISRA PGM. We implemented GISRA program which was tailored to the community needs. Considering that we come in a society where children were not freely interacting during religious celebration. For example, I'm a Christian and it's Eid. You have invitation from friends that you have to go and feast, but your parents are like, no, don't go. If you go and people know that you went, the parents normally do their caning after that. We had a situation where a church was being established within a Muslim majority region, for example. And the first 2 days of putting the materials down, everything was vandalized. So within those cases, that is community level, I was be able to bring religious leaders to have a dialogue. But again, these are really issues that are happening, and they are not new because the religious leaders within the locality know that how they happen. And for me, it's really hard to understand why should we not be tolerant to one another? Why should we not just have a conversation of what can be done more within our community? For example, we created platforms of interreligious dialogues. We created platforms where young people can come to interact with religious leaders. Those activities were platforms where we built connections. Religious leaders from different religions can come and have a meaningful conversation of how to preach peace. Because from our context, we believe that if a religious leader stood out and said, for example, we love our brother from the other religion, then the followers will just follow it automatically. So it was more of understanding how to bring the religious leaders to be champions within the community to spread the word of peace and togetherness and tolerance. Another thing that I would love to say about the implementation and the conversation of the declaration is that it preaches promoting and protecting rights of religious minorities. For us to be the protectors or to advocate for freedom of religion in our communities doesn't make us lesser being. For example, if today I understand my brother from another religion, it doesn't make me a lesser religion person from my own side. So it's a matter of knowing that we need each other. We need to understand each other for us to have peace and justice society. And one thing I'll request, I'm happy that there are so many policymakers in the House, and I was just zooming around to see if I have some from my country, and I'd love to interact with them if they are here, is that we need to go out to know that we need policies that promote this protection. For example, we have countries where we have no policy that promote religious education in the education sector. And it's a point that has been raised by some members here that we need to advocate to see that in our education systems we have religious education of other religions which are minority within our communities. Again, it will be a very shameful for us to just preach this gospel beyond 20 years. So the actions that what we need is the action that should happen now within our spaces. So, and of course, understanding that we need more actions by the young people, and we are here. We have been in these spaces, and we love to interact more and preach this gospel of the declaration that we need each other.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert, and thank you for your request and call. So please, Member of Parliament and interfaith leaders, talk to Robert. Robert is going to talk to you because young people need that empowerment. But let me ask you, Robert, you said you work at the grassroots level. You use the Marrakesh Declaration. Do you have a copy? Do you have a copy of it yourself?
The copy were not given, just the training and the pamphlets.
The training. Yeah. So I want to give you this copy, first of all. Keep this.
Thank you.
And then tell me, how this declaration could help you at the grassroots level. You are working interfaith and understanding of the other, and you are a person of faith. You are a Catholic, you mentioned,
yes,
in the majority Muslim neighborhood. So educating the Catholic community about the Marrakesh is so critical, I think, to help understand. They understand that, there is this in the Muslim community's tradition of mutual respect and understanding and religious freedom and all of that. Do you have any examples specifically you can tell us from your own grassroots experience?
One thing I haven't shared is that when I shared this when we were in Prague for the ministerial, is that within our locality we have youth groups. We call them small groups, where youth of different religions sit down over a cup of tea. We call them like chai chats. We sit down just to have a conversation. But this conversation are more on religious education, because right now I understand and I know that we have, for example, Muslim and Christian have one factor, which is the salam. That we always say, peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
We use it
and
even in Catholic, you know that. That we have these discussions just to, not to bring tolerance, but to understand that we are one as young people. And if there were information that were like stereotypes that are long gone, and for us young people is that we are creating that culture and society that we don't view each other as Muslim, Christian, traditionalists, and any other related faith in the world.
Thank you. Very helpful. And I just special thanks to you, Robert, because as we speak, your own country, Kenya, in Nairobi, there is an International Religious Freedom Summit going on.
Yes.
In the region, and you decided to come here.
Yes.
To be with us.
Yes.
Especially thanks to you.
Thank you.
Now, we have a respondent here with us on the stage, and she is going to react to what she heard from the panel And then immediately after that, I will come to you hearing from parliamentarians. And I do have 7 requests so far, but we're doing good on time. So 7 multiply a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 14 minutes. We still can have 15 more minutes. So, but now to my sister Najat Mahdi Umar. So Sister Najat, I think I met you in Ethiopia at some point, right?
Yes.
In Addis, yeah.
Yes.
So you are from the woman and youth focal person in the Ethiopian Interfaith Forum for Development and Dialogue and Action. And this is Religions for Peace National Affiliate Organization. So you heard from the panel on Marrakesh. What's your reaction to this, other respondent?
Thank you so much, distinguished colleagues, respected panelists, friends in faith and humanity. I'd like to reflect on the what has struck me most. My brother Sheikh Mohammed bin Ba'a has said, from what he has said, revisiting one's own religion, because Marrakesh Declaration is it didn't come from nowhere. It came from the Medina Charter. It came from what has been in the religion itself, and also from Dr. Catherine. Sharing lived experiences in storytelling, and also from Robin, he also shared his lived experience as a giving the example of the Marrakesh Declaration, how he has been implementing that. And I would also like to add on my own experience into implementing the Marrakesh Declaration. And as you have introduced me, my name is Najat Mahdi. I am with the Women in Youth focal point for Ethiopian Interfaith Forum for Development, Dialogue and Action, which is the only consortium interfaith organization that serves as an umbrella for more than 10 religious organizations' development wing to work on the grassroots level about interfaith dialogue, including marginalized groups, women and youth and indigenous communities in peace talks, which is what Marrakesh Declaration is all about. With more than 250 Muslim scholars and leaders gathered in 2016 on date 17, I guess, to sign the declaration. They were not merely making a statement. They were not making a statement. They were reigniting the legacy that has been rooted in the Charter of Medina, where diverse communities pledged allegiance not through sameness, but through shared values, mutual protection, and a common civic purpose. Today, as a respondent and also someone from Ethiopia, I speak from the land that embodies both the beauty and challenge of religious pluralism, where a place for Muslim, Christians, and indigenous faith communities and more than 85 nations and nationalities coexist, sometimes in harmony, at times in tension, but always woven deeply in our national identity. Let me begin how interfaith initiatives have worked across Ethiopia. In the northern parts of Ethiopia, in the Amhara region, if you may know, a young man who has been supplying illegally weapons to the conflicting parties that has been going on for several years now, made the decision to stop after engaging in the interfaith dialogue initiatives that we host. And the women of faith in Ethiopia came together to establish a community court and developed an early warning system to detect and respond to a potential conflict. In another region, in Zawai, Interfaith Youth launched an art gallery to advocate for peace through visual expression and shared narratives. In Jimma, religious leaders from a grassroots council that mediated ethnic and religious tension before violence could erupt. And as I remember, during COVID-19 and the landslide that has happened in the southern Ethiopia and the internet displacement crisis, Muslims and Christian communities joined efforts to distribute humanitarian aid, demonstrating unity in times of hardship. In the southern parts of Ethiopia, I may mention Hawassa and Bahir Dar, young people lead creative interfaith dialogue, a music festival, and a storytelling to breathe a new life into the peace-building processes that we are going through. And some religious communities in Ethiopia have experienced displacement, exclusion, and violence, while legal guarantees for religious freedom exist, but enforcement is inconsistent. At times, religious identity is hijacked by political agendas, making coexistence fragile. From this experience in Ethiopia, we have learned crucial lessons that can be applied to many other contexts. Dialogue cannot wait until conflict breaks out. It must be continuous, and constitutional rights must be enforced with accountability and equity. And the voices of young people and women are not optional, they are essential. And it is in this spirit that I share how the Marrakesh Declaration must not remain in the document only. It must become a framework for transformation. This aligns deeply with our panel today, and exploring how integrating the declaration into FORB, freedom of religion and beliefs framework, can build a sustainable and inclusive societies. I have had the opportunity to participate in one of the trainings of the Marrakesh Declaration, which Mohammed El-Sonoisi himself gave me the training, and which was hosted and funded by the Dutch Minister of Netherlands under the GISRA project. We must begin in our education system. That is what I can also recommend. If children grow up learning about one another through narratives of fear, exclusion becomes invisible. But when education is shaped by values of religious literacy and mutual respect, diversity becomes a strength, not a threat. And we must begin also change how we speak of faith, moving from tolerance to collaboration. And religious diversity is not a weakness to be managed. It's a resilience to be cultivated. Central to this work is the meaningful inclusion of women in use, not as participants, but as a co-creators.
Yes.
I've seen this firsthand in the GISRA project that we have been implementing for the past 5 years, where youth and women play a leading roles in conflict prevention, community mediation, and peace education. And from what I have learned in my experience with the GISRA project as well, GISRA doesn't parachute a solution. This I really love most. It listens, adapts, and allows for religious diverse communities to shape their own futures. It's a living manifestation of what the Marrakesh Declaration is about. And why does this matter globally and for all of us here? It's because religious minorities' rights are a human right. And majorities and minorities are fluid. Christians are majority in Europe and the Americas. Muslims are majorities in the Islamic world, yet there are minorities in the rest of the world. Hindus, Jews, Sikhs, and Baha'is there are minorities almost everywhere around the world, yet they are all integral to the society.
Thank you so much. This is.
I'll only take 1 minute.
1 more minute, okay. You're speaking so well. I want to just listen to you. Keep on.
Okay, thank you. And protecting religious minorities isn't a charity that we do. It's a justice that we must serve. And because at some point, somewhere, any one of us are a minority. And this is why interfaith dialogue is not just a gesture of goodwill. It's a tool for policy, for justice, and for sustainable peace. Today's majority may not be tomorrow's minority, maybe tomorrow's minority. And in that truth lies our shared responsibility to build societies where rights are not being guaranteed by numbers, but guaranteed by principle. And here, members of the parliament and scholars, I call for a codification of protections for all beliefs to ensure inclusive education that reaches every classroom, to prioritize the meaningful of inclusion of youth and women in other marginalized groups in the development and implementation of the programs and policies that we have, and to challenge hate speeches and incitement of violence wherever they rise, and to embed interfaith dialogue within national governance and not as an event, but as a norm. The Marrakesh Declaration gives us a torch, but it's up to us to take this torch into a light, into a law, and transform it into a policy for our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Even, Sister Nayat, you spoke so well, and I mean, I love your closing because you lifted up some of the notions and concept, majority-minority dynamic, right? You are minority somewhere, you are majority somewhere, and all of that. And then the meaningful engagement and involvement of women and youth. I love that. And finally, your call to partnership and collaboration with parliamentarians to promote religious freedom or belief for everyone, everywhere, all the time. Very good. Now, we're getting 8 requests, and I think we're doing well in time, right? 8 requests from parliamentarians. I mean, the organizer told me it's 2 minutes. So if I stop you in 2 minutes, blame the organizer, don't blame me. So I want to make sure that is, don't blame the religion, don't blame me, blame the organizer. So I want to make sure that's the case. But let me begin by inviting Honorable Mr. Dulfaqar from Indonesia. Where is Mr. Zulfaqar? I was in your country in my formal capacity as a commissioner just 3 weeks ago with the delegation of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. And we met with officials and civil society in Indonesia looking into state of religious freedom. All right, Mr. Zulfaqar, the floor is yours. 2 minutes.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikum assalam.
May peace be upon us all. Fellow parliamentarian, esteemed religious leader, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gilang de la Ferrares. I am the member of committee Inter-Parliamentary Cooperation of the Indonesia House of Representatives. It is an honor for me to be here representing the Indonesian Parliament in this crucial discussion on the religious minority and the lesson we can draw from the Marrakesh Declaration. As the world's largest Muslim majority democracy, Indonesia uphold Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, or as we can see, unity and diversity. Ensuring the right of the all faith is not merely a legal obligation, but a moral imperative. The Marrakesh Declaration, inspired by the Madinah Center Charter, reinforced the idea that religious minority must be protected under the law. In Indonesia, this principle align with our Pancasila, the 5 principles, which guarantee religious freedom and equal right for all citizens. However, challenges remain. While Indonesia has made significant progress in promoting interfaith harmony, we still face issues such as discrimination, social exclusion, and the occasional sectarian tension. The Marrakesh Declaration serves as a reminder that religion tolerance must be actively upheld through policy, education, and community engagement. As legislator, we have a duty to translate this principle into concrete policy. In Indonesia, the Parliament has taken several steps, such as strengthen legal protection against discrimination and violence, promote interfaith dialogue to build mutual understanding, integrate religious tolerance into education, work with civil society to counter hate speech and extremism. In addition, Indonesia has implemented religious moderation or wasitiyah, which promote balance, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence among different faiths. Those efforts align with the Marrakesh Declaration call for inclusive citizenship, where all individuals, regardless their faith, are treated with dignity and respect. The Marrakesh Declaration is not just a statement, it is a commitment to action. As parliamentarians, we must ensure that our law reflect the value of inclusion and protection for all religion community. I urge my fellow legislators worldwide to strengthen interfaith collaboration, uphold the right of religious minority, and create policy that foster peace and coexistence. Let us work together to ensure that religious diversity is not a source of division, but a foundation for unity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable Mr. Ferraris, and I apologize, I mispronounced your name earlier, but thank you so much. Very strong closing as well. Now, I want to call upon Ms. Hala Fayaz, or Faiz. She is from the Shura Council of Bahrain. Yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you. سعادة الرئيس والسادة والسيدات المتحدثين.
Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, may the peace of Allah be upon you. Let me begin by thanking the Italian Parliament for having organized this meeting of ours, especially this session, during which we're talking about the Marrakesh Declaration, which is very important and which focuses on the rights of religious minorities. It dates back to 2016, and it reiterates Islam's commitment to defending the rights of minorities and in refusing all forms of marginalization and exclusion. This declaration was a turning point in the Muslim world, in its narrative, in its religious and political narrative. The declaration aims at protecting minorities, and it isn't just a matter of law, it is also a political and moral matter for the countries, the governments, and intellectual elites, so that we can build societies based on diversity and human dignity. Now, we as parliamentarians have a major responsibility in terms of disseminating this vision by adopting and implementing laws that can guarantee the respect for diversity. Plus, we have to promote a way of overseeing that these principles are complied with. This requires political responsibility and political will, and it requires sincere cooperation on the international level. Now, the Kingdom of Bahrain's experience is a living example. We have been able to translate these principles into something real and tangible as a way of promoting peaceful coexistence, thanks to the guidance of our king, based on the firm belief that religious diversity can be a source of strength. That is the essence of stability. We have guaranteed the freedom of religion. We have reiterated the importance of citizenship without any kind of distinction. We have upheld these principles also thanks to legislation aimed at countering hate speech. And the Marrakesh Declaration will always be a source of inspiration for any country trying to build a society which is more fair and more peaceful, so that we can uphold human dignity and strengthen social cohesion based on mutual respect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for urging all parliamentarians and all parliaments worldwide to adopt this declaration, to see how it can be implemented in all of our realities so that we can promote the well-being of all of humanity.
Mr. Marius, Honorable Marius from Cyprus, House of Representative of Cyprus, I see you. Welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Honorable colleagues, esteemed faith leaders, dear friends, religious minorities are not guests in our societies. They are equal and integral members whose rights and dignity must be respected and safeguarded unconditionally, as affirmed in the Marrakesh Declaration of 2016. At a time when global tensions are rising and extremism threatens world peace and security, the Marrakesh Declaration serves as a roadmap for all of us, as it reminds us that religious freedom is not a threat to national identity, but evidence to its strength and maturity. However, principles must be translated into action. Declarations are only as meaningful as their implementation. As parliamentarians, we must ensure that constitutions are upheld, hate speech is condemned, and education fosters understanding over fear. As parliamentarians, we also have a clear duty to protect the rights of the majority while also safeguarding the dignity, safety, and freedom of every individual, regardless of their religion, ethnicity, or ideology. Freedom of religion or belief is a fundamental right that must be upheld without exception and without fear. As a former President of the House of Representatives and a proud member of the Armenian community, one of the three constitutionally recognized religious groups in the Republic of Cyprus, I have witnessed firsthand how faith and identity can grow within inclusive, democratic, and diverse societies. Our experience as Cypriots has taught us that pluralism is not a weakness, but a source of resilience. Despite our country's continued forceful division, the Republic of Cyprus, through its constitution, remains committed to ensuring that all religious communities, including Armenians, Maronites, and Latins, can worship freely, preserve their traditions, and participate fully in public life. The Cyprus problem is not rooted in religion. It is a problem of foreign invasion and occupation that remains unresolved for over 5 decades. And yet, even under these challenging circumstances, faith communities in Cyprus have continued to coexist without mutual respect, offering a powerful example to the world that faith can bind rather than divide. In a world that is increasingly marked by intolerance and division, inclusion must be our response, and freedom must begin with the right to believe, to question, and to belong. Only then we can build a future rooted in trust, dignity, and enriched by diversity. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, it's really, you know, just make me very happy to hear the statement from parliamentarians in support of the Marrakesh Declaration. So now from Cyprus, I want to go to Algeria. Where is Algeria? Algeria there is ready for it. Honorable Sultanat from Algeria, please. Yes.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. أولا أهنئكم على.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you very much for organizing this meeting. You've talked about the entire world except for Algeria. And that's a question we'll be dealing with during the break, of course. And I hope you won't count that as part of my 2 minutes. Mr. Ben-Baia, talked at length about the Marrakesh Declaration. He said it was inspired by the Medina Charter, although we haven't mentioned the Medina Charter at all in the Declaration. In fact, we should have attached the Medina Charter to the Marrakesh Declaration because not many are familiar with that document. That is a document which created a citizenship based on the respect for minorities and religions and freedoms. It has enshrined the right of citizenship for all those who lived in Medina. So I think that would have been enough. It would have been enough to attach that document to the Marrakesh Declaration so that people would know that the Prophet felt very strongly about safeguarding the dignity of human beings. And the Quran also says that there can be no constraints in religion. Another point I wanted to mention is that this declaration, which is very deep and very profound, although it will remain meaningless unless it is actually implemented. We have had the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which dates back to 1948, and there are 4 very important articles in it, It mentions the right to life, the right to expression, the right to education and employment, and the right to dignity and justice. And it mentions protection from torture. All of the rights have been trampled. They have never been respected. My question is, will we ever be able to see full respect for this declaration one day? Now, after September the 11th, we met in Europe, and we started discussing why it is we hate one another. And after a 3-day discussion, we were able to come up with a very brave answer. And we understood that we hate one another because often we consider ourselves as being second-class citizens. And the rights of people are often ignored. We decided to say that terrorism is terrorism. We tried to define what terrorism and violence are. And now, after almost 20 years, we still haven't come up with a definition to the word terrorism. Thank you very much.
Nigeria, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We have a lot to talk about it in the break. By the way, وزير الشؤون الدينية الجزائري وقتها غلام الله.
And the Minister for Religious Affairs in Algeria at the time attended the preparatory meetings for the Marrakesh declarations in Tunisia. So Algeria was indeed present. And of course, we can discuss Algeria during the break. Thank you.
From Algeria to my sister from the House of Representatives of Morocco, Khadijat, is Morocco is present? Yes, please. Honorable. Naam.
شكرا سيدي.
Thank you. First of all, let me say that traveling from Marrakesh to Rome is a journey through history, through cultures, through religions. It is a journey which is marked by a very deep human spirit, which touches us all. Now, when we talk about the Marrakesh Declaration, we feel two things. On the one hand, we feel honored because Morocco is a land of the encounter between cultures and civilizations. It is the land of the Emir and all people of faith in Islam. It respects all religions, and it is a land which hosted the first meeting. And we also want to salute the city of Rome, which is hosting the second meeting. We feel a great deal of responsibility today. We don't want to be seen as parliamentarians who only know how to talk. We also have to be able to turn our words into actions. And in fact, we have been saying how important it is to truly give meaning and action to the Marrakesh Declaration. We have to find a way to implement our national policies. We also have to make sure that we can pass laws aimed at promoting inclusive societies which are tolerant. We have to try to equip ourselves with a code of conduct in our parliaments so that we can counter any kind of speech leading to hate and extremism. The Marrakesh Declaration is a document which I feel truly reflects Morocco's spirit, and I'm sure that there will be a follow-up to that document. The most important lesson we learned from the Marrakesh Declaration is that there needs to be a way to find an agreement between all religions. It's important to find common ground and to identify we need to be able to make a distinction between religion and politics, which are two separate things. We also have to promote a dialogue so that we can bridge the gap between people who have different points of view. We have to avoid using religion as a political tool. We have to promote education that can lead to open minds and coexistence despite our differences, so that we can promote pluralism. Allow me to say one final thing. During the meeting in Marrakesh, we talked about Adirouet, the famous poet, who said, "My opinion respects others despite our differences, and others have to respect my point of view." And this goes to show that we may be wrong and our counterparts may be right, but despite our differences, we have to come up with a dialogue. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. You were given 2.5 minutes. You've received an extra 30 seconds because you hosted our first meeting.
So you give me 5 more minutes, I guess, right? I heard the organizers, they said going to give me 4. All right, so 1 o'clock, 5 minutes, we're going to close. But from Morocco, I want to go to Chile. So the president of the Senate of Chile is here with us. You have Honorable Osandon, you have a couple of minutes, and the floor is yours. You are ready for it, I guess. Go ahead for it.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I am the president of the Senate in Chile, and we're all the way down there at the very end of the world in the south. Well, the Marrakesh Declaration, I will only take a few seconds to say this. Of course, it talks about the freedom of religion and respect for religious minorities. We know, in fact, that minorities need to be safeguarded, and we need to be consistent between what we say in the Declaration and what is actually done. We know that this must be put into practice. I come from a country that is far away in the south of the world, and of course we respect freedom of religion. This is legally binding. It is in our constitution, and we must see it also in everyday life, in the facts of life. I think that interfaith dialogue, and I am a Roman Apostolic Catholic, I think that we must indeed put into practice the values that are declared, because of course all of religions are good, and I think that this is something that must be borne in mind. But the practical results, the practical outcome is what we must see. So we shouldn't only be invoking declarations. We need practical, concrete measures, and we need commitments of our parliamentary leaders, our political leaders, and also our leaders, the religious leaders, faith leaders, who are very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I call it, this is short and sweet. I appreciate it. Short and sweet. I'm not sure the translation. You got it, Honorable? Still you didn't get it, I believe. I want to make sure. Good. Thumb up. I gave me a thumb up, so thank you. Now, yes, okay. From Chile, we're going to go to Pakistan, and just bear with us. You know, we're going to conclude, you know, and we're going to continue to engage and entertain until we conclude. Pakistan, what is the Senator Honorable Farouk, Senator Farouk Naik from the Parliament of Pakistan, Jiwi, Pakistan. Jiwi, Pakistan. Okay, go for it. We can hear a microphone.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor. In January 2016, Muslim scholars, politicians, activists, and interfaith leaders from around the world convened in Marrakesh, Morocco, to address the right of minorities in Muslim-majority countries. Pakistan, with a population of over 240 million, is a Muslim country, but with a diverse diversity of ethnicities and faiths, including Punjabis, Sindhis, Balochs, Pashtuns, Hazaras, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, and others. Our national flag carries a white strap representing the valued presence of our religious minorities who make up nearly 4% of our population. Our Constitution guarantees religious freedom and equality with Article 220 granting every citizen the right to profess, practice and propagate the faith. Article 27 and 36 of the Constitution further ensure protection against discrimination and mandate the safeguarding of minority rights, including a 5% job quota in civil services and reserved seats in both houses of parliament. Pakistan has enacted landmark legislation such as Hindu Marriage Act in 2017 and the Sikh Marriage Act in 2018, ensuring legal recognition and protection of family rights for these communities. Election Act 2017 further mainstreams minority participation in democratic process. A powerful example of our commitment to interfaith respect is the Kartarpur Corridor inaugurated in 2019, allowing Sikh pilgrims from India visa-free access to one of the holiest sites. We also celebrate festivals like Diwali and Christmas at the state level, including reinforcing our belief in pluralism. Senator Surjit Singh, sitting next to me, is a Sikh in Pakistan and represents the Sikh community in the Senate of Pakistan. Pakistan has established key institutions including the National Commission for Human Rights, National Commission for Minorities, and Protection of Minorities Unit, all working to promote tolerance, address grievances, and train officials on minority rights. Parliamentary oversight is ensured through our standing committees on religious affairs and interfaith harmony and here. But I must say, there are sporadic instances of religious fanaticism, but Pakistan's government with an iron hand deal with it and justice is given to the victim. Pakistan's remained committed to building a society rooted in justice, dignity, mutual respect and coexistence. By embracing our diversity, we strengthen the foundation of peace not only in our region but for our shared global future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, I was expecting also to hear about Risalat Pakistan, Baqam Pakistan, right?
Yes.
Which was very important. Now, I think that was the last one from Pakistan, from the parliamentarian. I want to thank you. Before I come to the panel for concluding 30-second each remarks, I want to invite Bani, my sister Bani Dogal. Bani is the representative of the Baha'i Community Director for the Baha'i Communities to the United Nations. She knows Marrakesh Declaration. I want to make sure that 1 minute, your reaction to this. Your reaction to this. And then I'm going to go to Bai Sahib and then we'll come to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My brother Mohammed, you said it correctly. I do know the Marrakesh Declaration well and have high regard for it, as well as for the JISRA project that our sister from Indonesia talked about. And these are really important if implemented. So while I see these declarations and projects as vital for interfaith harmony all over the world, we do have a problem because they're not being recognized and implemented in many parts, and we need to work a lot harder to make that happen. The senator from Pakistan forgot to mention that Pakistan also recognizes the Baha'i holiday of Rizwan. So in many parts of the world there is acceptance, and yet there are some parts of the world where Baha'is are severely persecuted in Iran, and we are also facing discrimination in Qatar and Egypt. And I think as commissioner, you know that. So I would urge all the parliamentarians to really recognize the declaration. And Mahfoud, my brother, has to do a lot more for spreading the message all around the world. So we do have true implementation of these declarations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Bani. Marrakesh Declaration for everyone, everywhere, all the times. Now, my apologies to the honorable parliamentarian from Zimbabwe. You know, we got your request, and it was oversight from our side. So we're going to recognize that, and we will invite you for a couple of minutes. You know, Honorable Jerry, your statement.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, the Chairman. Let me acknowledge the fellow members of Parliament who are here and the panelists. Zimbabwe, we are in the process of implementing the Marrakesh Declaration. We have tried as a country to embrace the three core principles which are in the declaration, which is citizenship regardless of religious affiliation, protection of religious minorities as a sacred duty of the state, and the promotion of interfaith dialogue as a foundation of social cohesion. On citizenship, Zimbabwe's parliament has consistently rejected any notion that religious affiliation should determine one's status as a Zimbabwean. The Citizenship Amendment Act of 2021 explicitly states that no person shall be denied citizenship based on religious beliefs, reinforcing our commitment to inclusive nationhood. Our Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, and other minority communities are not merely tolerated, they are valued contributors to our nation fabric. Our parliament has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to translating constitutional principles into lived reality for all Zimbabweans, regardless of their faith. The Parliamentarian Portfolio Committee on Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs has been instrumental in reviewing legislation to ensure compliance with religious freedom. In 2019, this committee conducted comprehensive hearings on the Traditional Leadership Act to ensure that traditional and religious leaders for minority communities are adequately represented in governance structures. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, you know, thank you for your patience, and thank you for the specificity. So what that means, you picked specific principles from the Marrakesh Declaration, and you basically explained to us how you implemented those principles, which is critical. I want to have a coffee with you in the break to learn more. Now, we're going to come to the stage, 1 minute each, and then I have a surprise for you, and then we'll close. So bear with us just for 5 minutes. So I want to begin by you, Robert, as the young person, as the youth. 1 minute concluding remarks. Something burning that you didn't say before, you want to say it now. You have the chance.
I think for me, I'll have two things. One of them is we have declaration we have with us, and I know you have given me a copy.
Yes, I did.
Which again, I'd love to share it with others. But let's continue the sharing. Let's continue advocating for it in the local settings. Let's young people know about the declaration, because again, they can be advocates for the declaration, engaging governments to put policies that will favor protection of religious minorities. That is one thing. Another thing is, it has been said in the morning that let us end these conversations within boardrooms. Even the member of parliament, the president of the parliaments can be ambassadors of the declaration within the corridors of parliament. We have a situation where I believe member of parliaments who are here know other member of parliaments who are not here. We can continue the conversation that we need to put more actions and see this thing being a reality. It has taken us many conferences, many engagements, many scholars, many policymakers to come up with this document. Let it not end up in writings, but in action. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert. Professor Marshall, are you happy with the discussion so far?
Of course.
Thank you so much. So I want to make sure that, Professor Marshall is happy with me. It's very important. But anything you want to tell to close?
Yeah. I've worked in development for longer than many of you have been alive. But the principle that we often hear, what's the priority number 1, 2, and 3? It's education, education, education. So I think that there are many ways in which we can translate these principles of the Marrakesh Declaration into case studies, into modules that could be applied and could really both form the next generations, but also their teachers, and help us to deal with the underlying tensions. And I think it is important for us to think about education, the religious education components of the curriculum, the national curriculum or the Catholic or the madrasa, whatever, as education about religion more than education for religion. Obviously, we care about the values of citizenship, etc. But if we don't establish that we're teaching about different religions, then it is very difficult for us to have the kind of pluralism that so many of you refer to as not tolerance, but knowledge and respect and caring, and finding ways to use the rich diversity and dynamic of our world in positive ways.
Thank you. Well said. Now, to you, سعادة الشيخنا المحفوظ. Young lady first. Okay. Najat, you have 1 minute. So, what kind of voice you're going to bring to close?
I would say let's be listening more to what's in the ground, especially in the grassroots level, and I'll also call for interface dialogue turning into interface action. Because we need more action that we have, all the declaration that we have. And I would also call for engagement of women in using these discussions even at the grassroots level, and where we are making policies, and we develop policies for the parliamentarians as well. And I say Marrakesh for all, every time, everywhere. Thank you.
For everyone.
For everyone.
Thank you so much. Now, Your Excellency, Sayyid شيخنا المحفوظ، أنا وددت لو كنت سألتك عن إعلان مراكش والسلام العالمي، ولكن ما عندنا وقت. الوقت أصبح.
Unfortunately, we don't have time enough to ask for your views on the Marrakesh Declaration.
So should this time speak in English or French or Arabic? I would prefer Arabic always.
Yes, please.
أولا شكرا.
Yes, I do prefer Arabic. Thank you. I will take into consideration every single remark made by all of you. I do thank you for your engagement and for your participation in this debate today. I wish to say something about my commitment
long journey, from cradle to the grave. Peace is not something you should be paid for to work. Peace, it should be your habit to spread peace around to your neighbors, to the people you meet in the street. Prophet ﷺ said, just a smile on the face of your brother in humanity. So that's, he said, it's sadaqah. So that you're like a charity. Just to smile on the face of someone else. This is beautiful. We should just remind people about this. I was with the Muslims delegation, or representative of Muslims in other religion, and I think, if I remember, it's 18 or 19 of September 2001 in White House. So it's 1 week after September 11. So because my religion been hijacked, and I'm there to tell them, those they did this crime, they're not representing me. So it was very clear mission that they all have difficult days, 25 years we're working to reach the level to understand to call for peace is not harming anyone. To call for peace in any time, before war, during the war, after war. Do we have anything else to call for, not peace? Of course we're going to call for peace. Because our religion, every day we pray 5 times. And after prayer, we go, Allahumma anta salam, wa minka salam, wa ilayka ya'udu salam, hayyina rabbina bis salam. Yeah, why you be sensitive from it? And I will surprise you. The first activity from Iraq Declaration, who was benefiting from? I was surprised. It's United States of America. We organized the first American caravan for peace between Jews, Muslims, Christian, evangelical. And when I was organizing that, I had a problem. Christian, they don't want to, evangelical, they don't want Jews with them. Jews, they don't want Muslims with them. So then, but we make it. We make the first trip to Abu Dhabi, second trip to Rabat, third trip was a big conference, and we announced Washington Declaration in 2018 for Alliance of Virtue. Then we signed Alliance of Virtue, 1,000 people, 1,000 scholars and representatives of leaders from other religions, they signed it. So now we have a long journey. We have a big surprises coming this year. It's a beautiful surprises because it's not going to harm anyone. It's just calling for peace. We're going to call for peace. We're going to keep calling for peace. And peace, as I said, is our job. And our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا تدخلوا الجنة حتى تحابوا أولا أدلكم على شيء إذا فعلتموه تحاببتم
أفشوا السلام بينكم.
Separate peace between us.
Thank you so much. We continue to spread peace. Beautiful closing, and we are about to close. And I wanna really to close. I wanna mention a couple of things, and I will gonna conclude this. One is that I wanna also appreciate the Italian Parliament for inviting us here. You know, it's amazing. Let's give them a round of applause. You know, giving us the opportunity and a platform to talk about the Marrakesh Declaration implementations and engage with the parliamentarian. They have already contributed to the movement of Marrakesh. Second, I want to appreciate also something that I didn't mention. I want to mention it. That is the role of religions for peace in the process of Marrakesh, because they played a unique role. What was it, Dibika? They brought 50 renowned, famous religious leaders, not Muslims, Christian and Jews and other traditions, to attend Marrakesh. Sheikh bin Bayy at the time called it liyashhadu, to witness. And that's religions for peace. And I want to also thank you, because the first immediately implementation between the Sunnah scholars and the Shia scholars was hosted in Japan on Marrakesh Declaration implementation, hosted by Religions for Peace Japan. So thank you, Dibika. Now, finally, and I am done, I want to invite our good brother, our mentor, our leader here, Bai Sahib. Bai Sahib, I want you to close us the notion of forgiveness that you have been working on it forever, for a long time, in connection to Morocco. Just close us. Thank you so much, Bai Sahib.
Thank you so much. As a Sikh member of a minority religion, as a Sikh member of a minority religion, I salute, thank, and love the Marrakesh Declaration. It reminds me to be aware of a latent spirituality of global citizenship, which we all have but may be ignorant of. And they are made of 5 things: inner awareness and responsibility, universal values, beyond boundaries, active engagement, inner and outer harmony. I can expand on this when time allows, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You know, beautiful word, strong word, nice closing. Please join me to thank the panelists. And of course, to thank you for your patience with us. Enjoy the rest of the meeting, enjoy lunch, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the opening session. Thank you so much.